Shabbat Shalom, Don Yohanan. So with Tefillah, uh, so yourself could lead us to Tefillah that we told. What is that? Oh, brother.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Baruch atah Yahuwah Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher natan Torah u'mishpachah. Blessed are you, Father, King everlasting, giver of Torah, family, Abiyah, Torah Rabbah for the Shabbat. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Thank you, Abiyah, for allowing us to meet another mark of it. Thank you for your mercies, your traveling mercies, Abiyah. Your hedge of protection for us, Abiyah, all around. We are truly grateful for everything that you do, Abiyah, in our lives. Leading up to this moment, Abiyah, praising and worshiping your most Kodesh name. We come before you, Abiyah, humble and thankful. Coming before you, Abiyah, saying, sleep, Abiyah. Okay. Coming before you, Abiyah, saying, Shlika, for any transgressions we have done against your face, Abiyah. For the transgressions of our forefathers, Abiyah, we say, Shlika. Forgive us, Abiyah. As we come into your knowledge and come into your truth, Abiyah. Bonding, molding with one another, Abiyah. Allowing us to grow as a family. Allow the word, Abiyah, that has been brought forth to be pleasing for your sight, Abiyah. Edifying your people. Bringing us back to our remembrance, Abiyah, of who we are and whose we are. Thank you for the Moreh. Strengthen them, Abiyah. Continue to guide and mold them to lead your flock, Abiyah. Strengthen the Zokanim, Zapanot, the Gabarim, Abiyah. Strengthen them, the mighty men of your nation. With the Anashim, the women at their side, Abiyah. Strengthening them, guiding them, being wisdom to them, Abiyah. Throughout the four corners of the earth, Abiyah. Strengthen those that call upon your name. We love and cherish you, Abiyah, with all of our hearts, with all of our souls, with all of our mights, Abiyah. In the character of your son, Yahushua HaMashiach, we pray to you. Baruch atah Yahuwah. Baruch Hashem Yahuwah. Baruch haba Hashem Yahuwah. Blessed are you, Yah. Blessed is your name, Yahuwah. Blessed is he who comes in the name of Yahuwah. When Mishpachah will agree, we say, Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Amen.
Amen. Let's see if I can get these up. We'll have the communal ordinances whereby Officer Uziel
Shalom, or Shabbat Shalom, Mishpachah.
Shalom.
Our first ordinance to come from Shemot, commonly called Exodus chapter 19, verses 1 through 8. And it reads, in the third month, when the children of Israel were going forth out of the land of Mizraim, the same day came they into the wilderness of Sinai. For they were departed from Rephidim and were come to the desert of Sinai, and had pitched in the wilderness, and there Israel camped before the mount. And Moshe went up unto Yah, and Yahuwah called unto him out of the mountain, saying, thus shalt thou say to the house of Yaakov, and tell the children of Israel, ye have seen what I did unto the Mitzrayim, and how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. Now therefore,
Yeah. Show your speaker on.
all right, Shabbat Shalom, Mr. Kyle. Sorry for the mishap. Our first ordinance will come from Shemot, commonly called Exodus, chapter 19, verses 1 through 8. And it reads, in the third month, when the children of Israel were gone forth out of the land of Mitzrayim, the same day came they into the wilderness of Sinai, for they were departed from Rephidim and were come to the desert of Sinai, and had pitched in the wilderness, and there Israel camped before the mount. And Moshe went up unto Elohim, and Yahuwah called unto him out of the mountain, saying, thus shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel, ye have seen what I did unto the Mitzrayim, and how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. Now therefore, if ye will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and a set apart nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. And Moshe came and called for the elders of the people, and called for and laid before their faces all these words which Yah commanded him. And all the people answered together and said, all that Yah have spoken, we will do. And Moshe returned the words of the people unto Yah. Allah Yah. Our next ordinance will come from Wa'ikra, commonly called Leviticus chapter 26, verses 40 through 46. And it reads, if they shall confess the iniquity of their fathers with their trespass which they trespassed against me, and that also they have walked contrary unto me, and that I also have walked contrary unto them, and have brought them into the land of their enemies, if then their uncircumcised hearts be humble, and they then accept of the punishment of their iniquity, then will I remember my covenant with Jacob, and also my covenant with Yitzhak, and also my covenant with Abraham will I remember, and I will remember the land. The land also shall be left of them, and shall enjoy her Sabbaths, while she lieth desolate without them. And they shall accept of the punishment of their iniquity, because even they despise my judgments, and because their soul abhorred my statutes. And yet for all that, when they be in the land of their enemies, I will not cast them away, neither will I abhor them, to destroy them utterly, and to break my covenant with them. For I am Yahuwah, their mighty one. But I will for their sakes remember the covenant of their ancestors, whom I brought forth out of the land of Mitzrayim, in the sight of the nations, that I might be their El. I am Yahuwah. These are the statutes and judgments and laws which Yahuwah made between him and the children of Israel in Mount Sinai by the hand of Moshe. Hallelujah. And our last ordinance will come from Yekezekel, commonly called Ezekiel, chapter 36, verses 22 through 28. And it reads, therefore say unto the house of Israel, thus saith Yahuwah Adonai, I do not this for your sakes, O house of Israel, but for my set apart name's sake, which ye have profaned among the nations whither ye went. And I will sanctify my great name, which was profaned among the nations, which ye have profaned in the midst of them. And the nations shall know that I am Yahuwah, saith Yahuwah Adonai, when I shall be sanctified in you before their eyes. For I will take you from among the nations, and gather you out of all countries, and will bring you into your own land. Then will I sprinkle clean water upon you, and ye shall be clean. From all your filthiness, and from all your idols will I cleanse you. A new heart also will I give you, and a new spirit will I put within you. And I will take away the stony heart out of your flesh, and I will give you a heart of flesh. Verse 27, and I will put my spirit within you, and cause you to walk in my statutes, and ye shall keep my judgments and do them. And ye shall dwell in the land that I gave to your fathers, and ye shall be my people, and I will be your El. Hallelujah.
I'll be reading from Shemot, commonly called Exodus, chapter 20, starting from verse 1. Again, I'll be reading from Shemot, commonly called Exodus, chapter 20, starting from verse 1. It reads, Now Elohim spoke all these words, saying, I am Yah the Elohim, which has brought thee out of the land of Mizraim, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other Elohim before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them nor serve them. For I, Yah the Elohim, am a jealous Elohim, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children to the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me, keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of Yahuwah the Elohim in vain, for Yahuwah will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Shabbat day to keep it set apart. 6 days shall I labor and do all thy work. And the seventh day is the Shabbat day of Yah thy Elohim. In it thou shalt not do any work. Thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, nor thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days Yah made the heaven, the earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore Yah blessed the Shabbat day and holiday. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which Yah the Elohim giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his donkey, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Oh yeah.
Hallelujah.
Okay, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Next, we're going to be going into our Hallelujah portion, preceded by my Hallelujah.
Yep.
Okay, wait a minute.
What's happening?
My hallelujah belongs to you. Hallelujah. My hallelujah belongs to you. My hallelujah belongs to you. Hallelujah. My hallelujah belongs to you. And you deserve it. 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 Hallelujah. My hallelujah belongs to you. 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 Cain, Todarabah, family. Hello, Yah. First and foremost, again, Shabbat Shalom, family. I yield the floor to those that are online to give them the opportunity first to present their hallelujahs if they have. So the floor is open. I'm checking for hands and we'll go from there. Go ahead, G.
Shabbat shalom, everyone. Just want to give praises for the Most High waking us up this morning, another week, another refresher, and just being merciful and giving us for our iniquity. Hey, shalom, brother. See you over there. How you?
Kane, Torah for that. Anyone else? Anyone else? Kane, I understand, Israel. I understand. I have a hello, y'all. My hallelujah is for his strength, his everlasting mercy. He is good in all his ways. I would say for the time frame that has been going on for myself, my mishpachah, my family, it's been pretty rough past couple of days, past couple of weeks. It's been pretty rough as far as making the transition and everything like that from military to civilian. I would say that the Most High has guided every step of the way. Through his strength, through his mercy, again, none of these things are possible. And I have nothing but honor and praise and thanks to give to our Most High. Of course, thanking everyone on this line, thanking the family, thanking the brothers that are here for your support through the Creator. Very, very appreciative of it. And again, I'm going to keep on. That's going to be one of my closest gems that I keep in my heart near and dear, that the family and everything like that just keeps on supporting, keeps on being mikdosh, in a sense, for myself and my family. So I appreciate everyone on this line. Thank you. That's my hello, y'all.
Can I go?
Okay.
Shalom. So I would give praise to the Most High Yah for life and also wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Recently, I was thinking about the concept of sin. Basically, if you sin and you pass away, you die in your sin, you have everlasting torment in the lake of fire. So I was, thinking about that. And when I see sin now, I just don't keep myself from sin just because I don't want to get thrown in the lake of fire. But of course, I want to make it to the kingdom. But I refrain from sin because I don't want to damage my relationship with the Father. Now, when I refrain from sin, I'm doing it because I love the Father, not just because of, the book says don't do it. Because I think of it as if, if you have a husband and wife who are married and one tells the other, the only reason I don't steal from you, the only reason I don't do this to you because it's illegal. So see, that concept is kind of basic. So the way I see it now, I do it because I love the Most High, not just because, the law says so. So I yield.
Okay, hello, y'all. Torah about for that, don't. Who's?
Okay. Shabbat shalom, Mr. Ka. All praise, honor, and esteem to the Most High Yah for his provision, his protection, his guidance. Sometimes we overlook the little things, and we don't even realize that the little things is what pretty much all we need for real. So I just want to say hallelujah for that. And the Most High has been great this week in my life. And I thank y'all, for being here in the fam. So Shabbat Shalom and hallelujah.
Okay, Torah. And again, I circle back around to those that are online. Excuse me. Anyone else with a hello, y'all? Just raise your hand and get you called in.
So I know we just we're gonna go into the Torah portion or have a conversation about the Torah portion.
That's what you
Yeah, that's good. We're gonna go into a conversation about the Torah portion, which is Wayikra. And then we'll do praise and worship. And we'll go into another conversation. What's
Okay.
that?
Okay.
So now, keep- Yeah, so the Torah portion for this week is in the book of Wayikra, commonly called Leviticus, starting in chapter 1. We ain't necessarily gonna read it. I just want to, well, we can.
You also told me to say this.
No. That's so lucky. Hold on. Give me a second. Because I'm not sure if everybody. So it's from Leviticus or Wayikra chapter 1 all the way to chapter 5. And does anybody know what this particular portion is going over? The first 5 chapters of Wayikra, commonly called Leviticus. What is it going over?
Doesn't it start off with everyone getting a title?
Position? Low. See, now y'all making me think that we do need to read it.
Oh,
Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Is it the duties of the priest and
What you mean the duties?
pretty much what the priest is supposed to do in certain situations, in short,
Like what?
like sacrifices and
Okay.
that type of thing.
Okay. So the first 5. Okay. So the first 5 chapters are in regards to the sacrifices, right? There are 5 major sacrifices, which we can start reading. We can just speak on them briefly. So let's go to the book of Wayikra, commonly called Leviticus chapter 1. And if you can read verses 1 through 10, Akeem.
Okay. Wayikra, commonly called Leviticus chapter 1, verses 1 through 10. And it reads, And Yahuwah called unto Moshe and spake unto him out of the tabernacle of the congregation, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, If any man of you bring an offering unto Yah, ye shall bring your offering of the cattle, even of the herd, and of the flock. If his offering be a burnt sacrifice of the herd, let him offer a male without blemish. He shall offer it of his own voluntary will, at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation before Yahuwah. And he shall put his hand upon the head of the burnt offering, and it shall be accepted for him to make atonement for him. And he shall kill the bullock before Yahuwah, and the Kohanim or the priest, Aaron's son, shall bring the blood and sprinkle the blood round about upon the altar, that is by the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And he shall flay the burnt offering and cut it into his pieces. And the sons of Aaron, the priest, shall put fire upon the altar and lay the wood in order upon the altar. And the priest, Aaron's son, shall lay the parts, the head and the fat, in the order upon the wood that is in the fire which is upon the altar. But the inwards and his legs shall he wash in water. And the priest shall burn all on the altar to be a burnt sacrifice, an offering made by fire of a sweet savor unto Yahuwah. And if his offering be of the flocks, namely of the sheep or of the goats for a burnt offering, he shall bring it a male without blemish.
Okay. So this first one is the burnt offering, but it says something in verse 1, verse 2. It says, if you bring an offering unto Yah, you shall bring your offering of the cattle, of the herd, or of the flock. That word there for offering is korban, which means to which is an offering. But when you go to the root of it, it means to draw near or to approach. So these are the offerings are things that you are using in order to draw near to the Creator or to approach the Creator, right? This is something that he's telling us in regards to how we are to do that through offering. So the first one is an olah, korban olah, which is a ascending offering or an ascending sacrifice, which everything is supposed to be burnt up. As far as the olah, is the olah voluntary or involuntary? Sar, G, Shay, Shabbat Shalom, Makau. Abigail, is the offering voluntary or involuntary? G,
Shalom, I say it's voluntary.
how you know that?
Man, you ain't hold on. It says when any of you brings an offering, you don't have to do it. You don't have to bring no offering. This with those who wanted to bring an offering.
Anastasia said voluntary. Oh, okay. Hold on. Anastasia said, let me look at my notes. I was 23. You said, okay, so, well, I'll hold that thought and I'll hold that question for you, but I do have a question for you in regards to that. It should be from the heart. Okay, okay. Is there anything that we just read that would show that if it's voluntary or involuntary? Because some of them are and some of them are not. Some of them are not voluntary.
I mean, it says it in verse 3.
Yeah, okay. I was just, people got to go back over it. Well, go ahead. Read verse 3, Akeem.
Verse 3. If his offering be a burnt sacrifice of the herd, let him offer a male without blemish. He shall offer it of his own voluntary will at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation before Yahweh.
Okay. So this particular offering is a voluntary offering, which means, of course, that it's not forced upon you. And although all offerings should be from the heart, 3 of those are from the heart, 2 of them are mandatory. So the burnt one is supposed to go up. It's fully consumed. It is something that you are giving to the Creator. And everything else is just pretty much telling you how to do it, but that's not I'm gonna say relevant, but it's not relevant to us today because we are not giving sacrifice. Let's go to chapter 2 for the second one. Can you read chapter 2, Akeem, verses 1 through 3?
Wa'ikra, commonly called Leviticus chapter 2, verses 1 through 3. And when any will offer a meat offering unto Yahweh, his offering shall be in fine flour, and he shall pour oil upon it, and put frankincense thereon. And he shall bring it to Aaron's sons the priest, and he shall take thereout his handful of the flour thereof, and of the oil thereof, with all the frankincense thereof. And the priest shall burn the memorial of it upon the altar, to be an offering made by fire of a sweet savor unto Yahweh. And the remnant of the meat offering shall be Aaron's and his sons. It is a most set apart thing of the offerings of Yahweh made by fire.
Okay. So this is number 2, which is a meat offering, which in the Hebrew is minka, which is a grain offering, right? A grain offering or a gift offering, really. A gift offering, a tribute, a present. All of these things are associated with the minka. This is what was given from Cain and Habel, or Abel. Cain and Abel were given minkas, or gift offerings to the Creator. This also is a voluntary offering. It is a voluntary offering. You do not have to give a minka, which would make what Cain did even more crazy. Why you smiling yourself? What's your thoughts?
Well, I'll hold for a second. Go ahead. Because you got me thinking about that Cain situation.
So why would that be crazy? Or does that spark a thought when it comes to Cain and Abel? If the Mika, which is what they were given, right? Let's go to Genesis chapter 4. Genesis chapter 4, right? verses 1 through 5.
Bereshit, commonly called Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 through 4. And Adam knew Eve, or Kawah, his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from Yahweh. And she again bare his brother, Havel. And Havel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in process of time, it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto Yahweh. And Havel, he also brought of the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof. And Yahweh had respect unto Havel and to his offering.
Okay. In verse 5, Akeem.
Verse 5. But unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect, and Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell.
Okay, Toda. So if this is a Mika or a gift offering, a tribute or a present, what is that? What type of thoughts does that give you? Like, what thought does that give you? Anybody? Because I have a thought, but I'm hoping that y'all have the same thought.
Somebody needs you to repeat your question.
Okay, the question is the second offering that we went over in Wayikra or Leviticus chapter 2 is the Mika, which is the gift offering, right? Or the tribute, or even some say grain offering. And this is the same, and it's a voluntary offering. But when you go back to Genesis or Bereshit chapter 4, this is the offering that is given to the Most High from Cain and Abel. So what does that begin to make you think, or does it even make you think about this situation here, knowing that it is a voluntary gift offering? Okay, you. I don't know if they're gonna be able to hear you, but
What he brought wasn't any of the requirements of a grain offering. He didn't bring no unleavened cakes. He didn't bring none of this stuff. He brought fruits.
well, so since you would go there, right?
He didn't
Abel,
even bring.
it doesn't say when you go to Genesis, when you go to Genesis 2, Leviticus 2, it doesn't say anything about the first of your flock. It doesn't say anything about your flock. But it does say in verse 12, right?
Mhm.
So when we go back to verse 12, so Wayikra or verse 12,
Leviticus chapter 2,
can't understand.
verse 12.
Mm-hmm.
As for the oblation of the first fruits, ye shall offer them unto Yahweh, but they shall not be burnt on the altar for a sweet savor.
But it says bring the offering.
Keep going. I keep.
Verse 13. In every oblation of thy meat offering shalt thou season with salt, neither shalt thou suffer the salt of the covenant of Yahuwah to be lacking from thy meat offering. With all thy offerings thou shalt offer salt. And if thou offer a meat offering of thy first fruits unto Yahuwah, thou shalt offer for the meat offering of thy first fruits green ears of corn dried by the fire, even corn beaten out of full ears. And thou shalt put oil upon it and lay frankincense thereon. It is a meat offering.
Okay.
It tells you all the requirements of what it should look like.
Yeah, see, but we don't know if they had those same requirements. But we do know so I get what you're saying, but as a Mika, we do know that it's voluntary and we know that it's a gift. So, but we don't know what they were supposed to give, right? So he could have, but maybe he couldn't have. But we do see something here in verse 12.
So do you think that he changed the requirements of, because the Most High does things the last one in the beginning. So he already knew what his requirements was going to be of his priest and of all that other sort. So I don't think there's a change. And for us, we're now having it revealed to us in detail as to what it is. You know what I'm saying? So for us, it seems like this is the first time that he gave it, but I don't think that was a requirement.
And I could go with that,
Just
but
like the Ten Commandments for us, until he wrote it on the tablets, it became real, or it became something seen. But looking at the Most High's track record, this things is already set. So it's us who gets that revelation.
yeah, I could understand that. And I was talking to Joseph about Adam being the first priest and maybe teaching well, not maybe, he was definitely the first priest and teaching Cain and Abel how to give offerings, but we just don't know those instructions. Just like it says that Abraham kept the commandments of Yah or Torah of Yah, but what Abraham followed, even though it was bits and pieces of the Torah given to the nation, it wasn't in totality that which was given to the nation. Yes, and then Aaron had his hand up.
The Most High also says that he doesn't punish us unjustly.
Okay, y'all hear Kyle?
Not really.
I figured that. Can you get on?
But okay, just to add a side note. If he doesn't punish us for something that we do not know, then why would he be punished if it wasn't already said? Like if I give you something that isn't to your satisfaction, there had to be a satisfaction list that was already given to me. You know what I'm saying? So you can't tell me do better next time if I don't have anything to do better to. So the way he casually just, kind of said, well, if you do good, then that means he should have already known. This is not like a
Okay.
pass.
So
There was already a criteria that had to go out in order for him to be disappointed.
so I'm gonna ask see what Aaron says, but then I have a question for you. Go ahead, okay.
I think it was more so about following the order in terms of just doing it step by step the way he wanted it to be done.
Okay. Which maybe he didn't offer his best. Okay, I'm going to that, Shay. And a question now, Kyle, right? You're my Isha. Hallelujah, right? Now, if I gave you a gift, because you've done this before, if I gave you a gift and it was like half wrapped, it was late, it probably was open already, and I just kind of put it back together and I gave it to you, would you be okay with that? No, because if I'm going to give a gift, don't give me a half behind gift.
Okay, it's the same thing I said. Don't hand me your mess.
Okay, the Mika is a voluntary offering. He didn't have to give anything. So when you go to Genesis chapter 4, and it says that Abel brought the first fruits of his flock, and that's a gift. So as Shay said, maybe he didn't offer his best. Abel gave the first fruits because it's the gift. So I'm giving you that which is first to me. Cain just gave him something that was common.
Okay.
So it's
and because it's voluntary, it's kind of like you didn't have to give anything.
Okay.
Kind of like I said, you don't have to hand me a mess. If you don't got it, then just don't do it. It wasn't like a requirement. So
okay.
That's why I was like, so if I have a requirement of what I'm supposed to give you, and then the time comes where something is supposed to be given to you, because of my heart, I could have just been like, I dropped the ball. I don't have anything to give you. But because of my heart, I'm just like, I know something got to be done. So let me just put something together. That's how I was like, you can't just hand me your mess. It would have been best if he just gave nothing. Okay. It wasn't like he had to give something.
We just don't know if it was required because it's not required. So we just don't know if he was giving it because his brother my brother gave something, so let me give something too. And I'm the oldest. That's just yeah. So it's like, okay, well, let me just do something in order to match what he's doing, which is why he had a problem with this brother in the first place.
Okay.
Cain also wanted to pull up. I don't know how far Don read down to, and just kind of backtracking for way part of chapter 1.
Mm-hmm.
But also in regards to verse 8. Well, let me say this real quick. For the offerings, for the crowd here, I know most of the brothers here know that there's a level to the offerings. I know one of my good Morehs taught us that there's a level to the offerings that are actually presented. The highest one being the Olah. That's the highest ascending offering that you can offer. The next would be what we're reading about right now, which would be the Minka. But in the actual offering itself of the Olah, one of the things I wanted to point out was in verse 8 that, and I'll read it, and it says, "And the sons of Aharon, the priest, shall arrange the pieces with the head and the fat on the wood, which is on the fire of the slaughter place." So I wanted to point out that the fat and the entrails was also one of the things that are pointed out specifically in regards to that offering. That means that it's the best of it itself.
Right.
Going back to Genesis chapter 4, verse 4, and it says, "Habil also brought the firstborns of his flock and of the fat thereof. And Yahweh looked on Habil and his offering." So that signifies that that was the best that he offered.
Okay. The choices, that word kaleb means choices. Best part, abundance, also, although it means fat. So when it says fat, like fat of the land, it's not, the land doesn't have fat, but it's talking about the choices or best part or the abundance of. So he gave the abundance of his flock as well as the first fruits of his flock. When Cain just said, here goes some fruit. But it's voluntary. So as Kyle said, if you don't have it, okay, that's cool. I would rather you say that than give the creator something that is beneath his standards. Because you will want to go before your creator with your best, as opposed to something that's just half but. We can go back to Wayikra chapter 2. So we have two offerings. The first two offerings that the creator is mentioning are the Olah, or the ascending offering, and the Minka, or the meat offering. I think I heard something. Now let's go to chapter 3. So you got the Olah, O-L-A-H, and you got the Minka, M-I-N-C-A-H. You got chapter 3, which is so let's go to chapter 3, Wayikra, verses 1 through 5.
Wayikra, commonly called Leviticus chapter 3, verses 1 through 5. And if his oblation be a sacrifice of peace offering, if he offer it of the herd, whether it be a male or female, he shall offer it without blemish before Yahweh. And he shall lay his hand upon the head of his offering and kill it at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And Aaron's sons, the priests, shall sprinkle the blood upon the altar round about, and he shall offer of the sacrifice of the peace offering, an offering made by fire unto Yahweh, the fat that covereth the inwards, and all the fat that is upon the inwards, and the two kidneys, and the fat that is on them, which is by the flanks, and the caul above the liver with the kidneys, it shall he take away. Verse 5, and Aaron's son shall burn it on the altar upon the burnt sacrifice, which is upon the wood that is on the fire. It is an offering made by fire of a sweet savor unto Yahweh.
Could you read that? I didn't get that.
Okay, Cain. So I'm reading it again. So Wayikra, commonly called Leviticus chapter 3, verses 1 through 5. And if his oblation be a sacrifice of peace offering, if he offer it of the herd, whether it be a male or female, he shall offer it without blemish before Yahweh. And he shall lay his hand upon the head of his offering and kill it at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And Aaron's sons, the priest, shall sprinkle the blood upon the altar round about, and he shall offer of the sacrifice of the peace offering, an offering made by fire unto Yahweh, the fat that covereth the inwards, and all the fat that is upon the inwards, and the two kidneys, and the fat that is on them, which is by the flanks, and the caul above the liver with the kidneys, it shall he take away. Verse 5. And Aaron's son shall burn it on the altar upon the burnt sacrifice, which is upon the wood that is on the fire. It is an offering made by fire of a sweet savor unto Yahweh.
Okay. So this is the Zebak Shlomim, or the offering of peace. The offering of peace. So then this is also another voluntary offering. Voluntary offering. One of a odor of soothing, right? Which says sweet savor to the Creator. I think it also says that in verse 1. I mean in chapter 1 for the burnt offering, that it's a sweet savor. Cain, verse 9, chapter 1, verse 9. And also chapter 2. It says that these are sweet savors, something that's soothing. It's kind of like you're doing something that is not required, but you're still bringing it forth. It's like music to the Creator's ears, or to his nostrils, in a sense. So this is one that is interesting because there are 3 people who eat this particular offering. Let me see if we can get to that.
The third one was
Zebak Shlomim, or a peace offering, or an offering of wholeness. Is an offering of wholeness. You can read start at verse 15, Akeem.
Leviticus chapter 3, verse 15. And the 2 kidneys and the fat that is upon them, which is by the flanks, and the caul above the liver with the kidneys, it shall he take away. And the priest shall burn them upon the altar. It is the food of the offering made by fire, for a sweet savor. All the fat is Yahweh's. Verse 17, it shall be a perpetual statute for your generations throughout your dwellings, that ye eat neither fat nor blood.
Okay, so you don't eat. So it says that we don't eat the fat. Now, does that mean that we don't? I was just talking to I think that was you. Was you talking about chicken? About the fat of the chicken?
Okay.
Yeah, no, we don't eat the. Y'all said that it has the fat up there. So are we supposed? What does it mean by the fat? So are we not supposed to eat oxtails and things of that nature? It says all of the fat is Yah's. So what is the fat of an animal? Joseph, you would know more than we would. What is the fat of an animal that we cannot eat? We understand the blood, that we don't eat red meat. We don't eat things that are half cooked. We eat things that are burnt. Well, go ahead, Akeem. What is the fat?
So there's different levels, I guess you say, for fat in regards to an animal. Fat that will be necessarily in the skin compared to the fat that is around like the entrails of an animal. The fat that's around the entrails of an animal actually helps lubricates the entrails, which causes those entrails to function properly. And that's not to say that the fat in the skin doesn't do the same thing, but without the fat around the liver, around the kidneys, around those vital parts of our body, it won't function properly. So it's actually the choice part in that. It's actually the choice part in that animal itself. Vice the skin, it doesn't really serve a purpose other than just for lubrication in that sense. Detoxification, all of those things that the fat around the entrails do, it plays a vital role for the entrails themselves.
Okay, hold on, Akeem. So we don't eat any of those parts. But once again, that word is also kaled, which means choice, or the best parts.
I had a question.
Okay, Akeem.
So the fatty part of a steak, you're not supposed to eat that.
No, you probably shouldn't eat the fat part of the steak.
Oh, let me jump back.
Which now, makes me happy because I'm not bougie then. I'm not supposed to eat that part anyway.
Okay, one more thing, Moreh.
Yes, sir.
So just hopping on the fat just real quick. The fat that's around the entrails is actually poisonous to you as a person when you eat it. But just in a sense, like normal fat that's on an animal, you say, yes, it's adds flavor to the food, but overall it's bad for your health. I think everyone here and on the line knows that ingesting the fat overall is going to lead to bad health. Will it eventually lead to molt? No, not necessarily. When I say molt, I'm talking about kill or death. It won't necessarily kill you right off the bat. Over time, it'll wear on your body, but when you're eating the fat of the entrails, it's actually poisonous to you, and that can cause significant health damages to you.
Okay, told Akeem. The boy, you know, now you know nobody gonna hear you from back there, so you know.
So
Mm-mm.
the coming out a little strong there. I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Forget it.
No, come on.
Come on, Ariel. Let's do this. Ariel, you see this? So, the fat, like when I was in fitness when I was younger, when you detox, that's where all your toxins go to.
Mm-hmm.
It goes to your fat. So the same thing with animals when they are detoxing or whatever is bad for them, it goes to their fat. So when you eat that, you're ingesting all their toxins.
Okay. So that's why we don't eat pigs, because they eat everything. So if they eat everything,
Because they don't have a way of detoxifying themselves.
okay.
They can't detox.
No.
They do a little bit.
It goes through their hooves as pus.
Okay.
That's a very
But it's
disgusting
not
animal.
enough.
And then they eat it right back up.
No.
I mean,
I mean, we don't eat it.
but if y'all like bacon, y'all can still eat it. It's okay. It's like
They
pus,
have
like
a
when you pop a
purpose.
pimple
They're so
and you just
adorable.
lick it.
Ew.
Same thing. Anyway,
What is this bad?
anyway, okay, all right. So slackly, y'all. All right. So the first three offerings are what?
Voluntary.
First three offerings are voluntary, and they are the what?
The burnt
Burnt offering or the olah,
grain off.
grain offering or gift offering or the minka,
Not giving out all of
and the last one was what?
them. Shabbat shalom.
What are the three offerings that we went over? And the third one is the Zebak Slomim, or the peace offering. So this is this offering you eat along with the priest, and then you offer the rest up to the Creator. The one that is wholeness is you breaking bread with your Creator.
Well-being.
Repeat that one more time ago.
This is, if I'm not mistaken, this is the only offering that you eat with the priest. This is the Zebak Slomim. So this is the only one that you eat because it is a wholeness. It is complete. Shalom means peace, but it also means complete or whole, restoration. So this is one that you, the Creator, and the priest, all of Israel, are eating together. Every representation of Israel is accounted for. All right, so let's go into verse chapter 4, and can you read verses 1 through 3, Akeem?
Wa'ikra commonly called Leviticus chapter 4, verses 1 through 3.
Okay.
Okay. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, speaking to the children of Israel, saying, if a soul shall sin through ignorance against any of the commandments of Yahweh, concerning things which ought not to be done, and shall do against any of them. If the priest that is anointed do sin according to the sin of the people, then let him bring for his sin which he hath sinned a young bullock without blemish unto Yahweh for a sin offering.
Okay. Can you drop down to verse 13?
Verse 13. And if the whole congregation of Israel sin through ignorance, and the thing be hid from the eyes of the assembly, and they have done somewhat against any of the commandments of Yah, concerning things which should not be done, and are guilty, when the sin which they have sinned against it is known, then the congregation shall offer a young bullock for the sin, and bring him before the tabernacle of the congregation.
In verse 15 as well, Akeem.
And the elders of the congregation shall lay their hands upon the head of the bullock, before Yahuwah, and the bullock shall be killed before Yahuwah. And the priest that is anointed shall bring of the bullock's blood to the tabernacle of the congregation. And the priest shall dip his finger in some of the blood and sprinkle it 7 times before Yahuwah, even before the veil.
Okay. So and then can you drop down to verse 22?
Verse 22. When a ruler have sinned and done somewhat through ignorance against any of the commandments of Yah, his mighty one, concerning things which should not be done, and is guilty, or if his sin wherein he hath sinned come to his knowledge, he shall bring his offering, a kid of the goats, a male without blemish.
Okay. So can you read verse 27?
Verse 27.
Mm-hmm.
And if any one of the common people sin through ignorance, while he doeth somewhat against any of the commandments of Yahuwah concerning things which ought not to be done, and be guilty, or if his sin which he hath sinned come to his knowledge, then he shall bring his offering, a kid of the goats, a female without blemish, for his sin which he hath sinned. And he shall lay his hand upon the head of the sin offering, and slay the sin offering in the place of the burnt offering. And the priest shall take of the blood thereof with his finger, and put it upon the horns of the altar of burnt offering, and shall pour out all the blood thereof at the bottom of the altar. And he shall take away all the fat thereof, and the fat that is taken away from off the sacrifice of peace offerings, and the priest shall burn it upon the altar for a sweet savor unto Yahuwah. And the priest shall make an atonement for him, and it shall be forgiven him.
Okay. All right. So there are a couple things in this particular chapter that are different than the first 3 chapters. Can anybody point some out for Vakusha? Okay, so you see, well, I just had, yeah, okay, so the elders are here. Uh-huh.
I mean, they have to lay their hands on the head of the bull.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The priest does a lot of work.
Okay, so the priest does a lot of work. The elders are involved. Anything else? What about well, no, I ain't gonna tell you that. Come on, G. I know you looking. I give y'all one. Well, the other one. Adon read different portions in it, right? All those portions had what in it? He read verses 1 through 3. He read verse 13. He read verse 22. He read verse 27. What did that cover? Okay, so there are definitely steps. All right, so let's see. I said he read verses 1, 2, 3. Then he read verses 13. Then he read verse 22. Then he read verse 27. What are those?
It's about what happens when the people does things, what they should do, because it's like when the congregation sins, when the ruler sins. So what should be done in those situations?
Okay, that's close. So what is it? What do all of those portions encompass? Like, what is that a yes? Chapter 4.
The sins of the people.
Go ahead.
I was waiting for you to finish. So
Ah,
trying to look this up.
Sins and error, definitely, Shay. What that's something else. It's telling you about sins and ignorance. What is a sin and ignorance? Kylie, what's ignorance? Huh? What is ignorance?
Not knowing.
Not knowing. Okay. It's too many people. Okay. All right. Cool. So ignorance. What does that sound like, Aaliyah?
Ignoring people?
Okay. To ignore, to not be aware of. So these are sins and ignorance.
I got ignorance.
These are sins and ignorance. So that's one. Now it gives you different groups of people, right? It gave you a person, a common person. It gave you a ruler. It gave you a priest. It gave you the entire congregation. The Most High is showing us that everybody sins in ignorance at least once in their life. Nobody is sinless. So when that occurs and you sin in ignorance, these are the steps for you to do. For the first 3 chapters, right? It just talks about offering. It says if someone offers, or if someone brings this, or if someone brings this. Chapter 4 starts off saying what?
If you sin through ignorance.
Cain. So it's talking about the sin, which means that so if you do this, what is required? What is required if you sin?
A sacrifice.
Okay, a sacrifice. Something has to be offered once you sin. So it's like, well, if you do this, then this has to happen. Kind of like the blessings and the curses. Well, if you obey, then this is what has to happen. If you disobey, this is what has to happen. So this is the first involuntary offering. The first involuntary offering is the trespass offering, or the kata. Kata, exactly. You're giving a sin offering. Let's go to chapter 5, Akeem. Chapter 5, verses 1 through 1 through 6.
Wa'ikra, commonly called Leviticus chapter 5, verses 1 through 6. And if a soul sin and hear the voice of swearing, and is a witness, whether he have seen or known of it, if he do not utter it, then he shall bear his iniquity. Or if a soul touch any unclean thing, whether it be a carcass of an unclean beast, or a carcass of unclean cattle, or the carcass of unclean creeping things, and if it be hidden from him, he also shall be unclean and guilty. Or if he touch the uncleanliness of man, whatsoever uncleanliness it be that a man shall be defiled withal, and it be hid from him, when he knoweth of it, then he shall be guilty. Verse 4, or if a soul swear, pronouncing with his lips to do evil, or to do good, whatsoever it be that a man shall pronounce with an oath, and it be hid from him, when he knoweth of it, then he shall be guilty in one of these. And it shall be, when he shall be guilty in one of these things, that he shall confess that he hath sinned in that thing. Verse 6, and he shall bring his trespass offering unto Yahuwah for his sin which he hath sinned, a female from the flock, a lamb or a kid of the goats for a sin offering, and the priest shall make an atonement for him concerning his sin.
Okay, so this is the Asham offering, or Asham, which is the sin offering. It's actually guilt offering. So this is what happens when you do something and you just happen to be like the these are like the lower level sins. But the sin and the sin offering, or the katat, and the asham usually go together. CH, but yeah. So like verse 9 says that he shall sprinkle of the blood of the sin offering upon the side of the altar. Of the rest of the blood shall be wrung out at the bottom of the altar. It is a sin offering. But in verse, it's telling, well, this is a sin offering, but it tells you that it is regarding when you are guilty. So the guilt is a sham, and the sin is katat. This is the second involuntary offering. You have to give one of these when something occurs, as far as what Leviticus is saying, right? So that's pretty much the entire Torah portion. That's 1 through 5, right? Talking about the different offerings and what is required. Nobody's giving offerings right now, so that's not necessarily necessary to know what you do when you got a bull or a lamb or something like that. But it's necessary Shabbat Shalom Akot, it is necessary in regards to knowing that we had offerings. Now I have a question, a couple questions. So we just read the first 5 chapters, right? Not in totality, but we just read about them, right?
Yeah.
All right. Can we go to the book of Jeremiah? Jeremiah chapter 7. Start at verse 21. Chapter 7.
Yirmiyahu, commonly called Jeremiah, chapter 7,
Starting at verse 21.
starting at verse 21. Thus saith Yahuwah of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, put your burnt offerings unto your sacrifices, and eat flesh. For I spake not unto your fathers, nor commanded them in the day that I brought them out of the land of Mitzrayim, concerning burnt offerings or sacrifices. But this thing commanded I them, saying, Obey my voice, and I will be your El, and ye shall be my people, and walk ye in all the ways that I have commanded you, that I may be well unto you. But they hearken not, nor incline their ear, but walk in the counsels and in the imaginations of their evil heart, and went backward and not forward. Since the day that your fathers came forth out of the land of Mitzrayim unto this day, I have even sent unto you all my servants, the prophets, daily rising up early and sending them. Yet they hearken not unto me, nor incline their ear, but harden their neck. They did worse than their fathers. Therefore, thou shalt speak all these words unto them, but they will not hearken to thee. That thou shalt also call unto them, but they will not answer thee. But thou shalt say unto them, this is a nation that obeyeth not the voice of Yahweh their El, nor receiveth correction. Truth is perished and is cut off from their mouth.
Okay. So it said, Most High said, I do not command you to do burnt offerings or sacrifices. Now, didn't we just read that he did? So it seems like there's a contradiction, possibly. Alana? That's fine. The boy, guys, she had a hand raised too.
Maybe he was talking to that generation to do sacrifices and not the generation in Jeremiah, because there was nothing really erected.
But they had the tabernacle or the Mishkan in the wilderness, and then they did build a. I know. I see you, G. Wake up. I'm wrong.
I was gonna say, maybe after
Yeah.
Egypt,
Mm-hmm.
it was much more different. After Egypt, he didn't require them to do that.
Okay.
That's all.
You said, hey, after Egypt.
Yeah, after he left Egypt. And
Okay, I got you. G.
I was gonna say, I mean, he commanded them to obey his word. You know, them offerings and sacrifices, they were only supposed to be an atonement for sin, and they got too comfortable with atoning for their sin rather than obeying what he said to do in the first place.
Okay. Okay. All right, let's go to the book of Exodus real quick. Oh, sister, Deuteronomy 12 and 11. Hold on, let's go there real quick. Shay said Deuteronomy 12 and 11.
so they got, like I said, no. I had it on my mind, but I said it wrong earlier. I had it, but it came out wrong.
Huh? Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Deborah. She's like in the corner. Yes, Kyle.
Well, I was just gonna say that it says here that he didn't speak to them about ascending, like he didn't bring them out of Mitzrayim for them to do offerings in the wilderness. He brought them out of Mizraim so that they can get to know him intimately, obey his voice, and also, have the blessings that he wanted to give them from the beginning. But they got kind of like what he was saying, they got stuck. Where I said they started getting stuck into, the tools that I gave you to help you to learn. The training wheels, basically.
And that was G, once he woke up, he gave the right answer. Can we go to Deuteronomy 12:11 real quick?
Devarim, commonly called Deuteronomy, chapter 12, verse 11. Then there shall be a place which Yahuwah, your mighty one, shall choose to cause his name to dwell there. Thither shall ye bring all that I command you, your burnt offerings, and your sacrifices, your tithes, and the heave offering of your hand, and all your choice vows, which ye vow unto Yahuwah. And ye shall rejoice before Yahuwah your El, ye and your sons and your daughters, and your men servants and your maid servants, and the Levite that is within your gates, for as much as he hath no part nor inheritance with you.
Okay. So, sis, we can't just offer whatever we want to. Remember, this is Deuteronomy, right? Which is after Leviticus. So this is something that just remember that this is after Leviticus, and I'm gonna come to that in a second. Can we go to the book of Shemot or Exodus chapter 15? Exodus chapter 15.
Shemot, commonly called Exodus chapter 15.
And can you start at verse 25, okay?
Verse 25. And he cried unto Yahuwah, and Yahuwah shewed him a tree, which when he had cast into the waters were made sweet. There he made a statute and an ordinance, and there he proved them, and said, if thou wilt diligently hearken to the voice of Yah thy Elohim, and wilt do that which is right in his sight, and wilt give ear to his commandments, and keep all his statutes, I will put none of these diseases upon thee, which I have brought upon the Mitzrayim, for I am Yahuwah that healeth these.
Okay. Can you go to chapter 16, verses 4? Verse 4, exactly.
Chapter 16, verse 4. Then said Yahuwah unto Moshe, behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a certain rate every day, that I may prove them, whether they will walk in my law or no. And it shall come to pass that on the 6th day.
That's it.
Okay.
Exactly. Can we go to Shemot chapter 19? And this is the last one. What you read in our ordinances, chapter 19, verse 5, okay?
Shemot chapter 19, verse 5. Now therefore, if ye will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine.
Okay, boom. And one more, because this is going to be where I ask y'all a question. Verse 24, chapter 20, verse 24.
Chapter 20, verse 24. An altar of earth thou shalt make unto me, and shalt sacrifice thereon thy burnt offerings, and thy peace offerings, thy sheep and thine oxen, in all places where I record my name. I will come unto thee, and I will bless thee. And if thou wilt make me an altar of stone, thou shalt not build it of hewed stone. For if thou lift up thy tool upon it, thou hast polluted it. Neither shalt thou go up by steps unto my altar, that thy nakedness be not discovered thereon.
Okay. All right. So we read all those, right? So the Most High said it in the book of Jeremiah. He said, I did not command you on the day that you came out to offer sacrifices. So then we go back to Exodus 15, right? On the day that they come out. And the Most High said, keep my commands, obey my voice, right? Then we go to chapter 19. He said, keep my commands, obey my voice. But then we go to chapter 20, right after we get the covenant of Sinai, and he's talking about burnt offerings and peace offerings. So what offerings is the Most High speaking of in Jeremiah, where he says that I did not command you to make those type of offerings? Because here he's saying that an altar of earth you shall make unto me, and shall sacrifice thereon your burnt offerings and your peace offerings.
Verse 3, Olah, meat and peace offering.
Your voluntary offerings. Okay.
I mean, if you go down to verse 17, it says that.
Verse 17, what?
In Deuteronomy 12,
Deuteronomy 12. Deuteronomy 12. And
verse 17. What you vow or
Okay.
of your voluntary offering or of your contribution of your hand.
yes, but by this time, don't we already have sin offerings and guilt offerings?
I don't know what you're asking.
By the time that Deuteronomy is written,
No, I was just saying. It also
oh,
tells you
well,
that.
yeah. So the Most High is always speaking on things that are voluntary, right? He never commanded you to give sin offerings and guilt offerings. Why?
Doesn't want you to do less than Mark.
Cain, because he's not. If I give you a way to get out of sin, right, then that means that I'm expecting you to sin. Okay, which we're gonna go to First Samuel chapter 15, right? Well, can you go ahead and read it? And can you go to Ezekiel 33?
King is book of 1 Samuel, chapter 15, starting at verse 22. Then Shemuel said, does Yahweh delight in ascending offerings and slaughterings, as in obeying the voice of Yahweh? Look, to obey is better than slaughterings. To heed is better than the fat of rams.
And that one is very interesting, right? Because he said, does he take pleasure in ascending offerings, which is the olah, or your karbans,
That's the highest.
or your other sacrifices? So the Most High said that even though those are voluntary, I would still rather you be the sacrifice, be living sacrifices, Paul says, the living sacrifice as opposed to giving offerings of animals. Yes.
What's a carbon?
Karban is it just means offering.
Hebrew?
Yeah.
So, the same thing?
Yeah, it's simple. So the Most High said, I would rather you be the Karban, I would rather you be the sacrifice as opposed to offering up animals. Because when they were in the garden, there was no offering up animals. You weren't expected to sin. You weren't expected to miss the mark.
So we're sacrificing people?
Huh?
Sacrificing people?
No. That's also against the law. Huh? What does sacrifice mean?
Yeah, okay.
No,
Definitely
a sacrifice is something is giving up something that is yours.
You have to murder it now.
So in order to sacrifice, that's just like, well, let's say that Alana is hungry, right? But only you have food. So a sacrifice would be you giving her your food. You're offering up something that is yours to somebody else. That makes sense? So you're giving something that's yours to somebody else. Does that make sense? Yeah, it's giving up something that's yours. So if I ask you to give up your seat, you are sacrificing your seat. If I say I'm hungry and you got food and you give me your food, you sacrifice your food. Yeah. It's just with the Most High, we sacrifice animals. So we sacrifice life in the place of our lives. Okay, just animals. We don't sacrifice humans. The Most High can sacrifice humans. We can't. Okay. Okay. So we read all these. Akeem, could you go? All right. So in regards to sin and stuff now, right? We have all these. We know that there are two involuntary offerings, which are what?
Trespass.
Trespass offering and what?
Sin offering.
Sin offering. So then, what do we do now? since we don't have a temple, and nobody's around here killing burgers unless we're eating it. So what do we do now for sin?
Nothing.
We don't do anything for sin?
We repent.
How you know that?
Because you told
How you
us.
say, how do you repent?
How do you know that that's what we do now?
Oh,
What was the question?
What do we do now that there are no sacrifices? Go ahead, G. I see your hand come. Go ahead. I'll go online first and then we'll go around the room.
I say I got a bad connection, but we seek forgiveness through his son, Yahusha, y'all, whatever y'all say, Yahusha, Yahshua, forgiveness through him, through his blood.
So what happened? So what happened during the
And
2000
repent, of course.
Huh? You said what, Akeem?
I said and repent, of course.
Okay, okay. I was about to say, so what happened for the 2000 years prior to Ben Yosef? What happened? All right, okay. What happened in 2000 years prior to the Messiah? If you believe that he is the Messiah.
They had the
Before.
animal sacrifices prior to him.
All right, so then what about the I can ask you questions as long as it's according to what we're talking about. What happened when the temple was destroyed?
Them sacrifices went away because he was killed shortly. What was it? He was killed right before the temple was destroyed.
Okay, so you're talking
Around
about the
that time
second.
frame.
Okay, so you're talking about the second destruction, right? Which is in 70 AD, and his murder was around 33 AD. Okay, so what about 586 BCE when the temple was destroyed by Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonians? What about 586 years before that? And give me a second on that, G. Akot Gwyneth, Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Are you on mute, Akot? Okay.
Shabbat Shalom. I wanted to say God required the sacrifices of our lips, so we had to pray. No?
Okay. I would ask where you got that from. I know where you got that from, but can you find that for me? Okay.
I would
You can
have
Google-
to look for it. Give me a minute.
Yeah,
One
that's
second.
fine. That's fine. Akeem, can you read that for me?
What you told me, Ezekiel?
33, 11 through 16. Akeem.
Because the quote commonly called Ezekiel, chapter 33, verses 11 through 16. And it reads, say unto them, as I live, said Yahuwah Adonai, I have no pleasure in the death of the wicked, but that the wicked turn from his way and live. Turn ye from your evil ways, for why will ye die, O house of Israel? Therefore, thou son of man, say unto the children of thy people, the righteousness of the righteous shall not deliver him in the day of his transgression. As for the wickedness of the wicked, he shall not fall thereby in the day that he turneth from his wickedness. Neither shall the righteous be able to live for his righteousness in the day that he sinneth. When I shall say to the righteous that he shall surely live, if he trust to his own righteousness and commit iniquity, and all his righteousness shall not be remembered, but for his iniquity that he hath committed, he shall die for it. Again, when I say unto the wicked, thou shalt surely die, if he turn from his sin and do that which is lawful and right, if the wicked restore the pledge, give again that he had robbed, walk in the statutes of life without committing iniquity, he shall surely live, he shall not die. None of his sins that he have committed shall be mentioned unto him. He have done that which is lawful and right, he shall surely live.
Okay. So where does the atonement come from? even when we had sacrifices, where does it the sacrifices, right? It said that and he shall make atonement for you, right? The high priest, he shall make atonement for you. But then you get to Ezekiel, and to atone means to cover. Where where is the true atonement coming from? Okay, I mean, yes, because he always gave the atonement. But where does it come from? Well, how is it received? I guess the better way to put it.
I would say it comes from the heart. I was thinking of, I don't know if it's still applies, but Psalms of Deuteronomy 51 talks about the sacrifices of he was a broken spirit, a contrite heart. But
So let's go. Shay just put it up there. Let's go to Psalms. All right, Shay, don't be giving me all these precepts. Let's go to Psalms 51.
17.
Sahaleen 51:17. 17 through 19, Bavakusha.
Telahim, commonly called Psalms, chapter 50, chapter 51, verse 17 through 19.
Can you start at 16, Akeem? It's likely.
Chapter 6, verse 16
Mhm.
through 19. For thou desirest not sacrifice, else would I give it. Thou delightest not in burnt offering. The sacrifices of Yahweh are a broken spirit, a broken and a contrite heart. O Yahweh, thou wilt not despise. Do good in thy good pleasure unto Zion. Build thy walls of Jerusalem. Then shalt thou be pleased with the sacrifices of righteousness, with burnt offering and whole burnt offering. Then shall they offer bullocks upon thine altar.
Okay. All right, so even here, right, it says the sacrifices of Elohim are broken spirit, broken and contrite heart, right? So we've all heard that or said it at least. And that's true. So that goes back to Ezekiel in regards to the atonement starts with you. That's where it starts and pretty much ends. It is you who have to turn or to shoot or to repent. And then that brings forth repentance. But then, of course, most people, especially Christians, say, see, you don't want sacrifices. But then you read 19, he said that because you then are good in yourself, now I will accept those olahs or those burnt offerings, those ascending offerings. Noah was righteous, right? Noah was righteous, correct? Okay, cool. All right, just making sure y'all awoke. Okay, he was righteous, but he still gave a burnt offering after he got off the ark. So he was righteous first, and then the Most High accepted it. And that's when the covenant came. The covenant, the rainbow, all that good stuff, that didn't come until he gave the sacrifice, but he was righteous first. Okay. Let's go to Psalms 116:17.
Telahim, commonly called Psalms, chapter 116, verse 17. I will offer to thee the sacrifice of thanksgiving and will call upon the name of Yahweh.
All right. And let's go to 145, 1 through 7. Since you just got a whole clip, I just read them.
Psalms chapter 145, verses 1 through 7. Praise ye Yahweh, praise Yahweh, O my soul. While I live, will I praise Yahweh. I will sing praises unto my Elohim, while I have any being. Put not your trust in princes, nor in the Son of Man, in whom there is no help. His breath goeth forth, he returneth to his earth. In that very day, his thoughts perish. Happy is he that hath El of Yaakov for his help.
145.
I'm reading 46.
Yeah,
I was just trying to see if y'all was, All right. Telahim chapter 145, verses 1 through 7. I will extol thee, my El, O King, and I will bless thy name forever and ever. Every day will I bless thee, and I will praise thy name forever and ever. Great is Yahuwah, and greatly to be praised, and his greatness is unsearchable. One generation shall praise thy works to another, and shall declare thy mighty acts. I will speak of the esteemed honor of thy majesty, and of thy wondrous works. And men shall speak of the might and of thy terrible acts, and I will declare thy greatness. Thou shalt abundantly utter the memory of thy great goodness, and shalt sing of thy righteousness.
Hallelujah. I guess that's an example of your sacrifice of thanksgiving, sacrifice of praise. I asked.
Slightly.
Go ahead, Akeem.
I just want to pull a couple of precepts in regards to making atonement for yourself. First, I wanted to go to Leviticus chapter 16. I thought this was interesting. I got two precepts I wanted to pull real quick just to show something. So Leviticus 16, we start at verse 11, I'm gonna skip down a couple of verses too. So verse 11, it reads, Aharon shall bring the bull of the sin offering, which is for himself, and make atonement for himself and for his house, and shall slay the bullock as a sin offering, which is for himself. So skip down. So this is the whole scenario for those that don't know. This is what's going on behind the scenes for the Day of Atonement. This is what the high priest is doing at this time. So if we skip down to verse 29, this is what we're supposed to be doing. And it shall be for you a law forever. In the seventh new moon, on the 10th day of the new moon, you afflict your being, you do no work. The native or the stranger who sojourns among you. For on that day, he makes atonement for you, to cleanse you, to be clean from all your sins before Yahuwah. Verse 31, it is a Shabbat of rest to you, and you shall afflict your being, a law forever. So that's just another precept to go along to. The individual has to be atoned for first. The high priest has to atone for himself first to make any supplication for you to go before the Father. And it reads on in that aspect. I also wanted to pull
hold on, Akeem.
Oh,
so with that, right? You said that the priest makes atonement for you behind the scenes while you're afflicting your being. So if you're not afflicting your being, does the priest's atonement cover you?
No.
Doesn't make any sense.
So when you go to Leviticus 23, right, and you read, so 16 is about the priest's job. 23 is referring to you. So when you go to Leviticus 23 and you read 27 through 30, Akeem.
Wa'ikra, commonly called Leviticus chapter 23, verses 27 through 30. Also on the 10th day of the 7th month, there shall be a day of atonement. It shall be a set apart convocation unto you, and ye shall afflict your souls and offer an offering made by fire unto Yahuwah. And ye shall do no work in that same day, for it is a day of atonement, to make an atonement for you before Yahuwah your El. For whatsoever soul it be that shall not be afflicted in that same day, he shall be cut off from among his people. Verse 30, and whatsoever soul it be that doeth any work in that same day, the same soul will I destroy from among his people.
Okay, so while the priest is doing his job, right, which is why the whole concept of, Yahushua, Mashiach being Yosef, if you mean, or whatever, that's fine, right? If you believe that he's high priest, okay, cool, wonderful. But it doesn't matter what he's doing or anybody else is doing, wherever they are, if you aren't doing your job. Because the Most High said, whoever doesn't afflict their soul, that person is eliminated. That word is karah, which means it also means to cut a covenant, but the way that it's used there means to cut off, to snatch away, to eliminate. So, and then he even goes further and says, well, if you don't afflict and you work, then that person is, what did it say? Cut off and destroyed from amongst the people. So you're destroyed or you are eliminated because you didn't do your job, thinking that somebody else could do it for you. That's never been the case.
say,
You gotta speak up a little louder.
oh, sorry, when people say that,
I get
You
loud.
gotta get a lot of good. Again.
No, your voice
No,
sounds
yeah.
when people talk about being atoned for in today's time, with, right, with a certain, individual, that means that you have to do your part, or it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
No. Kylie, is your hand up or you just in the sky?
Oh.
In the sky, okay. Go ahead, Yosef, and then I'll answer that the board. And I see you, G. Give me a second. Well, what does it mean to be cut off from amongst your people? Shay, give me a sec. I'll answer that too. Go ahead, Akeem.
Can this kind of ties into what I said before and what I forgot who said code in regards to Most High hearing your prayers. So I wanted to go to this song really, which is says First Chronicles. Let's look at Second Chronicles 14. It's like Second Chronicles 7:14, and it reads, "And my people, upon whom my name is called, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their evil ways. Then I shall hear from heaven and forgive their sins and heal their land." Verse 15, "Now my eyes are open and my ears attend to the prayers of this place." So that's one of the things I actually wanted to pull out right there. Is it's a cause and effect. When we're at our lowest state, things going back to the Day of Atonement, when we're afflicting ourselves and we're calling upon the Creator's name, now the Most High should hear our prayers because we're bringing ourselves to that point. We're afflicting ourselves to that point. And I'll yield right there.
So we have to constantly be in a Days of Atonement mindset.
You should always be in a state of humility. So if you live in a state, it's kind of like, I know Yosef would like this, but the Hulk, right? Where he's like, I'm always ready. Why? Because I'm always angry. So he's always able to cut it on. We should always be walking in a state of humility in order for us always to be there. The fasting just adds to it on the Day of Atonement. But if you're always at not a low state like woe is me, but just a calm, mellow ruach.
Praying,
Yeah.
lifestyle, then it's not hard when it gets to atonement.
Right.
True.
G, and then I got you, Shay. Go ahead, G.
Oh, no question. I take it back.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Now Shay, so there are two ways to answer that, right? One way is, the question was, what does it mean to be cut off from amongst your people? One way would be in a sense of like the lepers, right? So for those who had Zara'at, or what they would call leprosy today, those people were cut off from amongst their people. And how were they cut off from amongst their people? Okay, they were sent outside the camp. There was no interaction. There wasn't anything that any type of communication. So they were put outside the camp, and that was it. And then there's another type of cutoff, right? For example, let's go to the book of Psalms, Tehillim, chapter 37. And we're going to read verses 9, 28, and 38.
Tehillim, commonly called Psalms, chapter 37, starting at verse 9.
Okay. Salakia.
For evildoers shall be cut off, but those that wait upon Yahweh, they shall inherit the earth.
Verse
Dropping
28.
to verse 28. For Yahweh loveth judgment and forsaketh not his saints. They are preserved forever. But the seed of the wicked shall be cut off. The righteous shall inherit the land and dwell therein forever.
Okay, and then can you go to 38, verse 38? I think.
Verse 38. But the transgressors shall be destroyed together. The end of the wicked shall be cut off. But the salvation of the righteous is of Yahweh. He is their strength in the time of trouble. And Yah shall help them and deliver them. He shall deliver them from the wicked and save them because they trust in him.
Okay. And then can we go to 1 Samuel chapter 2? And we're going to start at verse 30 and go down to 34. 1 Samuel chapter 2, start at verse 30 to 34.
First Samuel chapter 2, Shemuel Rashon. Chapter 2, starting at verse 30.
Okay. 30 to 34.
Verses 30 through 34. Wherefore, Yahuwah Adonai, or Yahuwah Elohim of Israel said, I said indeed that thy house and the house of thy father should walk before me forever. But now Yahuwah said, be it far from me, for them that honor me, I will honor, and they that despise me shall be lightly esteemed. Behold, the days come that I will cut off thine arm and the arm of thy father's house, that there should not be an old man in thine house, and thou shalt see an enemy in my habitation, and in all the wealth which Yahuwah or Elohim shall give Israel, and there shall not be an old man in thine house forever. And the man of thine, whom I shall not cut off from mine altar, shall be to consume thine eyes, and to grieve thine heart, and all the increase of thine house shall die in the flower of their age. And this, you said, and this shall be a sign unto thee that shall come upon thy two sons, on Hophni and Phinehas, and in one day they shall die, both of them.
Okay. So this is the Most High talking to the high priest Eli, through some prophet. It wasn't Shemuel at that point. But the Most High said that I'm going to cut off your arm, right? Which is not the word that is used and cut off in Leviticus, but it means to just like hew, like really just cut it off, right? So he said, I'm gonna cut it off. But then when you go to 33, the same word is used, and it's saying that the one that I do not cut off, that shall be to grieve your eyes. So, and he said, I'm gonna kill two of your sons. So if you know the story, right, all of Eli's descendants died except for one. And that was the one that went with Daud. The one that, so everybody got chopped down by the Edomite, Doeg, and then one was allowed to escape. And then he was then a servant under Daud. So to cut off either means to separate completely, like to completely sever ties, or in other instances, it means to cut off as in death. So I hope that answers your question, Akeem. So to kind of wrap this particular portion up, the sacrifices were, as Kyle put it, training wheels, right? We, especially in Eastern culture at that particular time, their sacrifices were going on not just in Israel, but everywhere, right? Everybody sacrificed their deity, everybody made offerings, so on and so forth. So the Most High just used the culture of that particular time in order to allow them to, as Korban means, to draw near. But as we got, even in the beginning, there was no sacrifices. He just wanted us to commune and to be together in a state of wholeness through obedience. And now we are back at a time where there are no sacrifices. So the only way to draw near are sacrifices of our lips, which is in Hosea chapter 14, verse 2 of Gwyneth. That's Hosea 14, verse 2. sacrifices of our lip, or the calves of our lips, as it says, or the sacrifices of righteousness, or the sacrifices of praise, so on and so forth, or being a living sacrifice, which means to give up yourself and your desires for the desires of the Creator, which will then in turn give you the desires of your heart. Go ahead, G. I see your hand.
Now I was gonna say, what about the sacrifices of the Messiah though?
So that's okay. Okay. So
or
that,
better yet, his sacrifice. My bad.
okay. So that particular one wasn't made by us. That was something that was foretold of, right? When you're talking about Messiah ben Yosef, and we can get into that later, but as opposed to the narrative that is given. So for that particular sacrifice, that was something to bring the children of the lost sheep of the house of Israel back into the fold. And through that, atonement was given to a certain extent, right? But once again, that goes back to the high priest doing, or the Creator and his vessels doing whatever he does, and us doing whatever we're supposed to do. So right now, we don't have sacrifices that we can go to the temple and make. Go ahead.
So pretty much what you're saying is we still got both sides. We got work to do still. Like just because that sacrifice was provided, we still gotta do our portion.
Okay. Which has always been the case. The Most High has always made provisions on his side. It's like his side is always good. It's always us that has to fulfill our part of the covenant. So if we fulfill our part of the covenant, which is obedience, and the sacrifices of praise and stuff like that, those are voluntary. To pray is voluntary. You don't have to communicate with your Creator. You probably should, but you don't have to. To praise the Creator, that's voluntary. To read the word, as long as you obey the word, that's the bare minimum. So everything else is something that you're giving out of your heart. Those are the sacrifices that we're doing now, as opposed to what they were doing 4,000 years ago. Okay.
Got you. I got you.
Does anybody else have to go ahead?
Us being grafted back in. Is that in Jeremiah?
The lost sheep.
Yeah.
I got questions for that. In a sense, yes. Chapter 3, where he's telling us to come back. The adulterous wife, he's telling the northern kingdom to come back. Yeah, I would say Jeremiah right now. Jeremiah chapter 3.
I think parts of it. I think it's Ezekiel 16.
Ezekiel 16.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Toward the end of Ezekiel 16 about the marriage. Also in the book of Isaiah, where he's talking about he sought an intercessor, but his own arm brought him salvation. I mean, his own might or his own strength, which is his word, bringing him salvation. Okay.
What is accessory?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Intercessor is basically someone going before on your behalf, basically getting you out of trouble, like your sisters.
Yeah.
Like your sisters standing in the way of you from getting in trouble.
Yeah.
That would be considered an intercessor. Okay, she's interceding for you. That's the action word, interceding for you. But I actually had a quick precept for Shatiel, for that thing about being cut off. You don't really see the word per se being cut off used, but you see the action of. And I was thinking like early in precepts in Genesis chapter 4, where Cain is basically cut off. And you see that in verse 12, it says, okay, in verse 12, if you till the ground, it shall no longer yield its strength to you, and you shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth. So right there, due to the actions of Cain, basically Most High took away his purpose in a sense. He was a tiller of the ground. The Most High took that completely away. The strength of the ground was no longer afforded for him. In like manner, I was looking at Tehillim chapter 81, and I was thinking about that word strength. If the Most High is saying that we will be cut off from him, you have to understand that he is our strength. And that is spoken about in really throughout Psalms, but 81 is one that caught my eye in regards to that. So that was just another thing as far as a visual and acting of what it looks like to be cut off. Vice the actual word. Because we can hear the word all the time, but to see it in action is kind of different. It brings a different dynamic about being cut off. So I would never want to be cut off. I'll tell you that.
Okay.
That's actually on a physical, excuse me, on a physical and spiritual matter as well. I've been cut off, being transparent with the fam. I've been cut off spiritually. It does not feel good at all. You have to truly, truly work back at that. It is a complete process to work back, getting from that spot of wherever you were being cut off. So,
That sounds painful.
yes, it was.
Okay, you said so you won't be blessed. Yeah,
Get deep, these
you
questions.
won't yeah, pretty much you won't be blessed. You will no longer be able to participate. Okay. You have been thrown out, in a sense. You've been thrown out. Shabbat shalom, my coach. So does anybody have any questions in regards to this portion before we do praise and worship and then get into something else real quick? Shabbat shalom. Anybody got any questions here? In house? Yes.
A sacrifice and risk.
It's a sacrifice and what the same thing?
Risk.
Risk? Sacrifice and risk. No, because when you're risking something, you're putting it on the line, but you can get it back. So a risk is like gambling. I'm going to risk $10, but if I win, I get it back. A sacrifice is something that you don't get back. So if you sacrifice something, it's gone because you have just sacrificed. You have given it away. As opposed to risking something. Does that make sense? Okay. Anybody else got any questions? Yeah. They need to do this all the time. Y'all got questions.
I can get the. I'm trying to get too deep for that. I can get the correlation why she used that word risk though, because both manners will require some form of faith to it. There has to be a level of faith in regards to both of them working in a sense, being activated in a sense.
Okay.
Like that word. But yeah, can. And there's reward at the end of it. If you believe it to be so. But if you're just doing it just to do it, you're risking, you're just wasting in a sense.
Yeah, because I've risked, a lot playing dice and I didn't get it back. It turned into a sacrifice real quick. Yeah, no, it wasn't no faith on those. It wasn't no faith. Sis, Gwen.
Shalom, I do have a question.
Okay.
In reference to the sacrifice, so you say if you sacrifice something, you don't get it back. And then, but earlier on you said when we sacrifice is something that we're giving up in order to worship God. So if you give up friends, relative, family, that sort of a thing, you don't get it back. God
Okay.
doesn't replace that with those that can walk with you.
Okay. All right. See, now you're trying to get deep too, Coach.
The physical aspect versus the
Spiritual aspect.
spiritual report in return.
So yeah, it's a K. You want to explain that part? So you're talking about like family and stuff like that, right? Like when you sacrifice those days for the sake of the Creator.
Correct.
Okay, yeah. So you are giving it up, right? So let's say you have parents, right? So as far as I wouldn't say Abraham, but his father died. No, I can say Abraham. So Abraham, right? So when you read quote unquote other texts, and it says that he destroyed all the stuff in his father's house and he left. He sacrificed that relationship in order to seek the Creator. So he gave it up. Now, the Most High, the only way that you get it back is if the Most High changes their heart as far as family, friends, and so on and so forth. But if he never changes their heart, you gave it away. So it's a difference between sacrificing your relationships, right, with people, because we don't kill people, as opposed to sacrificing a job or sacrificing money or sacrificing things, sacrificing animals. Huh?
You don't get the exact same thing that you sacrificed up back. That's the difference. Kind of like what she was saying. It's still not the same thing that was given back. It's kind of like what I was saying about the wants and the desires. If I sacrifice my wants, I get back the desires of the Creator. So it's two different things. So it's not the same.
That's a humbling experience and stuff right here.
Okay, good job. So Bill, go ahead, Akeem.
Please repeat for me. I had difficulty
okay.
hearing.
Yeah, because they over there in the corner. You gotta say it again. I only know the catchphrase. All right.
You gonna say something fire, you can't get it back.
So pretty much what was said was when you sacrifice something, you never get back the exact same thing. So if you are sacrificing a relationship, right, with all right. If you're sacrificing a relationship, let's say with your mom, right? The only way that you get it back is if her heart changes, which means that you didn't get back the mother that you gave up. You got back something different. So you're still never going to get the exact same thing back. That's why you gave it up in the first place.
Right.
Okay, understood.
Hallelujah. Okay, so Aaron,
Oh, well, yeah, I was gonna say it's not about what you want. The Most High is gonna provide you with what you need, even if it's something that you sacrifice. You gave it up, like you just said. You gave it up because you didn't need it, in a sense, and he's gonna give you back something that's gonna apply to you in a much more different way than you kind of expected it to be.
so that I get what you're saying, right? That was a problem with Israel. They would give sacrifices, but it would be something that they don't need. That's not a sacrifice. That's just like, yo, I got some extra. Here you go. That's not a sacrifice, because a sacrifice is giving away something that you did need, but here. That's what Cain did. Cain gave something that was extra, like, yo, I don't need this. Like, here you go, Creator.
I got more.
Okay, it's more where it come from.
Gotcha.
Okay, as opposed to your best. If you give your best away, you can't get that back. That's like it's like trading away Michael Jordan. You know, you can't get Mike back no matter how many players you get back in return.
Right.
You're never gonna get Mike.
basically almost like Abraham going to sacrifice his son.
Okay.
Get that one back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we ain't getting Isaac.
Nope.
Okay. Ain't no way you gonna get Isaac back. But
Okay.
I was gonna say, but look at the reward in return.
Right.
They got everything in return.
okay.
When you give up the man,
You
when you give up your last, you give up your all, you gain everything.
Okay. Because you're giving it up to someone who can, as even as he thought, right? The sages say that he knew that even if he did kill Isaac, the Most High could bring him back because he said that that's the promised seed. So it is your faith that makes you sacrifice. It's like, okay, boom. I don't know what's gonna happen, Most High, but I'm gonna sacrifice this job, this location, and I'm gonna go where you tell me to go. Abraham sacrificed his family, his household, the land, and wherever the Creator was gonna take him, that's where he went. A sacrifice is something that you don't know the outcome of.
Right. You don't know the outcome.
Okay. It's faith.
Straight up, faith, all faith.
Which is why the Most High was unpleased with us, because we were giving away stuff that we know. Look, if I sacrifice this donkey, well, not donkey, if I sacrifice this ox, I got 5 other oxes, I'm good. Okay. As opposed to this my last ox.
Right.
So it wasn't in their hearts to sacrifice their best.
Okay.
They wasn't going off of faith. They was just like, well, if I give my best, what if things don't work out?
Okay.
So they going in it half the way.
Okay. Which means that you're not really confident in who you're giving the sacrifice to, especially when it comes to the Creator. Okay.
I'll say this, right?
You said sell a hotel in Monopoly? Look, that guy stopped playing with the light. I don't know what's wrong with y'all.
People do it every day, but they don't do it for the Creator. For example, right? If you're gambling, you gamble with their lives all the time. If I have this last dollar, I know I'm gonna play the lottery. Let me just sacrifice this last dollar. Even though I need to go buy water, let me go sacrifice this. Or, right, your job, right? I need this job. Like I need everything that this job gives me. But if I sacrifice this job, right, and give this job up, then where does that leave me and my monies? You know what I'm saying? Instead of just giving it all, I'll give a testimony, right? Okay, forget it.
No.
So, I would say that everybody does it. People do it every single day. They sacrifice their time, their money, their energy to things that doesn't belong to the Creator. Things that are not of the Creator. And they don't get it back because they're giving it to the wrong thing. The wrong energy, the wrong people, the just the wrong thing. So I would say that.
And they blame the Creator.
And they blame the Creator.
Isn't what they want it to be.
They blame the Creator.
They blame the Creator. That is the biggest thing that people do. Blame the Creator for what you decided to do.
It's the same thing with the children of Israel. It's like I have these ox and I have these animals that you ask us to sacrifice, but now you're doing it in vain because you know that, like Moreh Daud said, I got 5 more oxen, but I sacrificed this one today for what I did yesterday, and today comes. And my aunt comes to me, and my sis comes to me, and they offend me, or I offend them. I know that I can, quit jabbing the face, and then I go to the Creator and be like, "I'm so sorry, Creator. Let me go sacrifice this ox because what I did. You got 3 more oxes. You know what I'm saying? So that's poor in spirit. That's poor in mind. So as far as sacrifices is concerned, this is why it's so imperative that we use our lips and our hearts
to do this as we were doing back in the day, but with all of our hearts. You get what I'm saying? So.
Okay, hold on. Aaron, I believe you had your hand up next.
Where's the mic?
Okay, go ahead, Aaron.
I was gonna kind of correlate that with decision making in our everyday lives. Sometimes we base our decisions off of carnal things that, like you said, that don't kind of ties with the Most High. Sometimes we just make decisions rationally without thinking about the outcome or having our own expectation of the outcome. So yeah, I feel like it kind of all ties together. Okay.
Okay,
You were just saying with a link.
Huh. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Abigail, Johanna, G, Shay, Uncle Gwyneth. No. Okay, you guys speak up. Go ahead.
Oh, down.
Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, I said, I think it's very imperative since we're in this season of coming into the new season or Pesach or Unleavened, and every year we get to the beginning of the feast season, not realizing that it ends with us being atoned for. So we get to the beginning of the feast season, not realizing that the seeds that we're planting before we get to Pesach is the seeds that sprouts up during Shabbat, during the summer, and then you get to atonement. It's like, oh, I need to be atoned for, or I need to apologize to people, or I need to do such and such. You have this moment to get it all out, literally before we even get to Pesach. But I think that the down seasons, we don't take it seriously. So it's kind of like when you see the children of Israel and they're constantly doing these sacrifices and atonements and things like that, it's because the time that you have to actually just walk it out, kind of like being prepared before the season gets there. The time that we have to prepare, which is why we have Shabbat, you have Fridays to prepare. All these things that he told us to do is to keep us in the mindset of always staying prepared. But we just ignore it and we're just like, yeah, I gotta do this. And a lot of it is because of the things that we put in front of the Creator. So the things that we call priority becomes the things that keeps us from being prepared. If you put the Creator first, everything else, that's why he says, seek ye first the Creator and his righteousness, and then everything else gets added to you. We add everything.
No, it says that you add everything.
Yeah, we add everything to us, and then we're like, all right, Most High, sort this out for me. That makes no sense. We are supposed to have the Most High first and foremost, and then everything else falls in line. Your wife falls in line, your house falls in line, your job falls in line, and we miss that. So it's this mindset of, hey, Most High, I'm going to the store, come with me, compared to, should I go to this store? Everything we do is, hey, I'm doing this, come with me, y'all. You know how they say in Christianity, Jesus take the wheel. That's what we do all day. Why are you driving the car? Did I put you in the car? Are you mature enough for the car? These are the questions that we don't ask the Most High, and we wonder why things in our life isn't going the way that it needs to go. And it's like, I need to do more of this. You don't need to do more of that. You need to change your priorities and put the Creator as your priority, and then he will tell you what you need and what you don't need. And then you realize you're really just wasting time doing a bunch of nonsense that he didn't even ask you to do. So
we was doing a bunch of nonsense that he didn't ask us to do for 14 years.
Yeah.
What?
I'm just telling you. It's way better now.
Oh, she's thinking about her own life.
Yeah.
I'm talking about my life. It's way better now. I'm just telling you. See, he's the happiest I've ever seen him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know y'all.
Okay. So
It's going. It's getting going. So I know we're kind of jumping around. No, but no, you can. So Kane, I'll be super transparent with you, man. Y'all good? Yeah. But no, I'll be super transparent. The 14 years that my Isha is talking about is 14 years in the military. I can't say, I truly can't say it was a waste of time. Due to the fact of what I learned and everything that the Most High had taught me through the military, I would say it was a waste of time due to the fact that I wasn't able to truly, wholeheartedly worship the Creator like I wanted to, like my heart's desire wanted to. That's the waste of time because my time was going towards something else other than the Creator. So. No, that's why I was like, I can't. The way it came off, I was like, oh, it's not. I can't really call it a waste of time in there because of everything that the Most High had blessed me with through the military. All glory and honor be esteemed to the Creator of heaven and earth. But that entity itself, like I said before, I couldn't truly be myself. I was what you call double-minded. Waleb, what was it? Caleb, Waleb, double-hearted. I couldn't serve two masters. That's truly what the problem was. And you have a lot of people that are out there doing that exact same thing, walking around in the earth, trying to worship two masters. In their mind, they're thinking that they're serving one, but in all actuality, they're probably serving like 100. They're probably giving themselves and giving all these sacrifices, trying to tie it all up, giving their sacrifices, which you can consider your time. People are like, yo, I'm sacrificing my time. I'm sacrificing my life, if you want to equate it to that. People do that all the time to vain things. Okay. I'll tell them about Kohelet or Ecclesiastes 1:1, vanity, vanity, vanity. All these things are vanity. You're constantly giving yourself to these things that don't produce anything. They don't produce anything. Too many scriptures talk about it. But okay, I yield the floor at that point.
I would say 4.5 years. This is just me personally. This is saying, not 10, 4.5 years. Should have got out 10 years, 4 years ago.
Oh gosh. So something that Kyle said that kind of, triggers something. The off season, right? So this, women may know too, but who's the greatest wide receiver ever? Greatest wide receiver. It's good. Y'all would get it after the next.
What?
I think it's Jerry Rice.
Okay. Jerry Rice. Who's one of, because he's not the greatest, but who's one of the greatest basketball players of all time?
I don't know.
Rest in peace. Kobe. Absolutely. Who said that? Okay. Kobe Bryant. And Mike, but definitely Kobe Bryant, right? So I chose Jerry Rice and Kobe Bryant, the Mamba mentality, Black Mamba, right? What is something that both of them have in common as to why they're so great?
Practice. Work ethic. Work.
Okay. Go ahead.
No, well, to be honest, I don't watch that much basketball, but I did watch a video that the late Kobe Bryant made. And one thing that I took from the video, he said he was talking about basketball, and I noticed he was real passionate about basketball, and I was like, this is a real obsession, And then he said in the video that you asked for my all, and I give you my heart, something like that. So he put his heart into basketball, and I was thinking that concept stuck with me. So I basically want to apply that concept to my life, put my heart into everything that I do for the society.
Absolutely. Most High said with all your heart, soul, and might, right? Elijah, you had your hand up?
Yes.
Come on.
No.
Go ahead. You probably got to speak up. We can't hear you.
What made them great was they both usually go to practice right before any other basketball player on the team. Usually the basketball players either late or not on time, or they get there about 40 hours late, whatever. Yeah, but they even when the practice is over, they still shoot hoops and stuff like that.
So they were there before practice. They were there after practice. They worked before the game. They worked out after the game. And the off season is where the legends are made. That's the off season is what separates you from. That's what separated, for those who know football, Jerry Rice from Randy Moss. Randy Moss more than possibly had more talent than Jerry Rice, but the work ethic of Jerry Rice is what made him far and beyond the greatest. Because in the off season, people went to go train with him because of all the things that he was doing, because of how high he was. People went to go seek after Kobe, Kyrie Irving, and all that. They went Devin, but all of them went to go see Kobe because of his workouts, how he worked out, the weight training, everything. That's the off season. So you translate that to here in the walk. People want to, during the feast days or during Shabbat, and they hear something, they like, dang, you right. You know, I should do that. But then you have 6 days of that off season where you don't do anything that would help build you to what you said you wanted to do on the Shabbat, or what you said you wanted to do last Pesach. Well, dang, last Pesach, shoot, I ain't had no offering. I couldn't do this. Well, you know what? Like offering made by fire, the Most I say you're not supposed to come empty-handed. That's what I'm talking about. So now you have an entire feast cycle. You have an entire feast cycle. The Most High puts it, it's like you have feasts almost every three months for the first 7 months. The first group, you have 3, then you got Shavuot, then you got the last 3, and then you have a whole, season and a half to where you come back to Pesach. That's the off season. What are you doing during the off season? Are you working out? Are you studying film? Working out? So are you praying? Are you worshiping? Are you doing the mental work? Are you studying film? Are you studying our ancestors? Are you studying yourself? Are you sacrificing the time in order to do that? Because that's what the Creator's asking for. The sacrifice of the Creator, a broken spirit, broken and contrite heart. When you're broken, that's when you are ready to receive. So are you always in a mode of receiving what the Creator has for you, as opposed to, well, when it's time, I guess I'll be ready for it. That's when you're going to be like Cain and be like, dang, it's sacrifice season? Well, look, this is what I got. As opposed to you knowing what it is. You knowing that, yeah, it's Pesach coming up. Let's start cleaning our houses. Pesach coming up. Let's start cleaning out our temples, which is more important than your house. Let's start changing our mindset. Those are the things that the Creator is looking for. He doesn't care about animals. He made the animals for you, not for you to kill to him.
The things of the Creator shouldn't creep up on you. That's the thing. That's what we're doing in Israel. It's like Shabbat's coming. That creeps up on us. It should always be on our mindset. It's like we're always scrambling to do things for the Creator, when the reason why we're here is because of the Creator. So why are you scrambling to do what the Creator created you to do? Why am I scrambling to worship when He created you to worship? Why am I scrambling to fast and pray when that's what He created you to do? Why am I scrambling to find a purpose when you're not even putting the Creator before you? So it's like, I don't know what my purpose is. Well, you don't know because you didn't go to the one who created the purpose. Why are we scrambling to figure ourselves out when the one who created us can just give us the answers? We make life hard for us just because we look at these things out here that looks pretty and think that's what we need, when He can give you all that. He says it to you. Most of the time, I will give it to you. But we want to keep trying to get it on our own, or try to make it look like what the world says it should look like, and then gets mad when it doesn't look like that. We're adding the stress to ourselves for what?
So in other words, it's staying consistent.
Okay.
Is what I'm getting from staying consistent in terms of building your mindset and staying focused on the Creator, and just allowing Him to not do the work for you, but you gotta meet Him halfway at least. Like she said something earlier, and I could definitely relate to that. Because like everybody walks look different, but kind of similar at the same time, if I could say that.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? But she said something like, some of us are like, yeah, just pull up with me, Most High. Like, I'm gonna do this. Like, I just want you to pull up with me. You know what I'm saying? When in reality, you should have had that conversation with Him before you even made that decision, or He should have made that decision for you. And yeah, what I'm getting from this is just staying consistent and staying on top of your relationship with the Most High.
So, who in here plays sports? Play sports, ran track, all of that's in sports, right? All right, boom. Good. Me too, somewhat. Could you now go back and play and do exactly what
Are
you
you
did?
crazy?
Whoa.
Outside.
Speak for yourself.
Be moved and moved.
Well, it would be a lot. Now let me tell you something.
It would be a lot of work.
Yeah,
But
it's possible.
I would
Though.
be an knee replacement.
It's possible.
It'll take a lot of time and dedication to build back to that.
Okay,
I got
so
something.
go ahead.
It's like you have a talent. You might have taken a break off. Like people will say, "Oh, I had a kid, so I ain't doing this in this much years." You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But once you get back to it, you can remind your body or your mindset of what you used to do. You might not be the exact same, but you might be able to still do it. Right.
And to count back what he's saying, I didn't even think I was be able to do like I believe in calisthenics now, right?
Mhm.
That's how I was doing when I was younger. And yes, when you first go out there, every crick and crook in your body, every bone is singing like crick, crick, crack, crack, crack. But if you take your time and repetitiously get your body back to that certain type of movement, again, you won't be as exclusive as you was younger, but you can get there and you have a lot more wisdom in the movements. But you know, it takes a certain diet, it takes a certain mindset, you know, focus, and you can get there, but it takes extreme. And I'm talking from actually experiencing now. It takes a lot of changing up certain things. You know what I'm saying?
So but what again, if you know? Oh, well, go ahead, sis. And
he goes next.
No. I've been speaking all day. Yeah.
I would just say that.
Yeah, I don't think nobody can hear you.
Okay, so I was saying, like, on top of that, a lot of people, you know, we get into this thing to where because we didn't do it in a long time, we already sell ourselves short and say, hey, you know what, that was in my past, I can't do it again. I can't, like, I stopped and, you know, I fell off track and I'll never be able to get back on track. And they just, you know, don't even attempt, don't even try. They're not even willing to put in the work to get back to or be even greater than where they were. So what ends up happening is that now they're just wallowing in self-pity, saying, oh, I want to get here. Oh, I need to do this. Oh, this is what I need to do. But, you know, I'm not like how I was. I'm not, you know, as athletic as I was. I'm not as strapping as I was back then. So now I can't do it now. They don't even like understand that it's not about the age. It's not about, you know, your circumstances. It's really just about you shutting up and doing it.
Okay. No, I just wanted to kind of harp on Jerry Rice real quick. And playing football myself, playing that wide receiver position takes a great toll on your body, just like Mondone just said. He did that he was 43 when he retired. 43. At that position, you're ancient in a sense. Decrepit.
Not decrepit.
I use that word because most wide receivers, they retire when they're about 30. Like 10 years. So it just goes to show that if you keep a steady regimen and you're diligent behind what you do, you can surpass even the quote unquote status quo expectations of what your normal body can achieve.
I mean,
and there were most, and I'll end it with that. There were most defenders that even quoted and said that they couldn't believe it. Mind you, those guys were like 20 years old. He can literally be their father. and he is still smoking them on the fields. They could not believe it. They're like a 42, 43-year-old man is still continuing doing this. And that just goes to show the diligence of, if you keep that regimen up, that's what happens. That's the product of what happens when you're diligent, what you do.
Go ahead.
So back to the Bible, right? If you look at Caleb, right, when he asked for his portion, it said that he was still as fit as he was in his warring times when he was 40 and he was 80 years old. So that showed you that the Creator won't let your black crack. You know what I'm saying? If you put him first. I'm just saying.
So he was still shooting in the gym.
Go
ahead.
And Daniel, he was handsome. He looked good. Better than all them people. You know what I'm saying? He put the Creator first. And he was fasting. He was not even meat. He put, I'm just saying, better than what Nebuchadnezzar, or not Nebuchadnezzar, but whoever was, you know.
There have been people in situations even like to where, you know, all like reason out the window. Like when he like, I remember this one story about a guy who was like literally his leg was trapped under a boulder, like a big old boulder. It was just him and the boulder. His leg is trapped. And thinking about the strength of a human moving a boulder off of your leg, especially when you're in excruciating pain, it doesn't seem possible. But reason was out the window. And all that was left was this man and the boulder. And he moves the boulder. Now, he ends up breaking his arms, okay? But the fact that he breaks his arms, all right? But the fact that we as, you know, humans, we think about it as, okay, is this the most logical thing? This doesn't seem logical. This doesn't seem something that doesn't seem rational. But when you look at how things are changed, when something has to be changed or when something is being manifested, it's going to be anything but like rational. Sometimes it goes to the most extreme in order for it to change.
Because it's about the effort now. Your mind prevents you from doing most things that you should and probably could do because you're thinking about it too much. That's why one of them words I think is faith means to also to be foolish.
Yeah, faith is be foolish. Don't take it in a bad way, take it in a good way.
So why would faith means to be foolish? I believe it's faith. Let me make sure it's faith.
That's how it risky is, no?
Is that like the same thing when it says he takes the foolish things to confound the wise?
I will put it in that swoop. We'll put that.
You probably could.
Yeah, that will blend with.
I would say it's not faith.
Because the people who are wise use their reasoning and their logic. If you're doing something for the Creator, think about all the things the priest did, all the things Abraham did. Everyone looking at him is just like, why are you doing that? You know what I mean? Until they see the outcome. So it does confound people. It does make them think like, what? That was crazy. That's what you did?
We're talking about faith. It's kind of, if you wouldn't, so if there was like an obstacle course, you wouldn't try to run through that with your eyes closed. Like that, you would think that would be foolish to run through an obstacle course with your eyes closed, but that's exactly doing it, even though you can't see it.
I was gonna say it's based on perspective. It's the perspective of the person or the perspective of how people look through the eyes of the lens of the Creator.
My fault. It's not faith. It's praise. Halal.
Oh.
Hey.
No, I mean that's even better because, and I'll even continue with that vein, right? Because a lot of people when they step out, I guess you say on faith, halal. It does have a form of bolstering to it, right? Oh yeah. But For those that are walking in the likeness of the Creator, they can see that that's bolstering, that's praising the Creator right there. For those that are confounded, that's very foolish. Example, hey, don't leave the military. Go ahead and retire. Get that pension. Think of your family. Think of your children. Think of the schooling. Think of all these things that are presented to you. You can make officer. You can make all these things that are bestowed before you. Why would you throw that stuff away? That is dumb. That is foolish of you. Those are the words that are spoken. Whereas I can give those things up and be like the rich man. If he would have gave those things up, he would have had treasures stored up in the Shamayim. So am I worried about the earthly matters or the heavenly matters? So, all praise be to Yah.
We walk by faith, by sight. I can say something with my doing. And one thing too, whether it be military or a job, or sometimes we will get ourselves in a job that will definitely take you away from the Creator, right? So it's like in our culture, you know, it's mandatory. We make these feast days, like the Shabbats and everything. And the reason why these are mandatory, these are appointed times. These are appointments that we must make. Appointments. I'm pretty sure when a doctor gives us you gotta come to the doctor appointment, it's not that we running over and get it because we got to be there. So to have that same energy with Yah, you know, you give up these certain things that you're more flexible to get these appointments. And when you go to appointments, you get information. You get news, you get things that every appointment that you go to is gonna build you up for the next one and the next one and the next one. And when you realize you're in the right direction, you get grouped with like minds moving in the same direction.
Grouped.
Groups.
What?
Hey. What I said? Groups, you heard that? Groups.
I say whenever it's pertaining to the Most High, if you don't put your heart in it, it's useless. You have to pour out your heart. You have to be willing to accept everything that comes with the Most High. Put Him first in everything you do, and life will be better. When you're living according to the way He wants you to live, you're walking your path, you stand into your purpose, you're keeping the commandments, you're doing everything that He has laid out for us to do. Then we could say, oh, okay, well, we're living the way according to Yah.
So now you can respectfully say, well, I got you, Aaron. You can respectfully say, well, Most High, you said if I do this, you're gonna do this.
Yes. You can say that then when you know that you pouring out your heart, you doing everything He told you to do. Then you can go to Him and be like, Yah, this is your word. You said if I did this, it will all be for me. I can have it. It's mine. You can confidently say it. If you kind of got one foot on one side and one foot on the other side, you're like, should I? Well, you know that, I'm not doing right, so I can't even go to the Most High and even ask Him that.
So you can't stand, they say approach His throne boldly. You should approach it definitely humbly, but you should be able to stand on His word.
Yes.
If His word doesn't return back to Him void, and you do this, then now you have a expectation or a hope in the Creator that He's going to do this part. But as a coach said, if you are wavering, then you're going to go underwater just like Peter did. You're on top as long as your faith is 100%. But as soon as your faith starts to waver, that's when you begin to drop. That's when you begin to look for other stuff to save you. Wrong. And then I got you.
I was gonna say that our life are based on decisions that we make. Working for the Creator unwillingly knowing is kind of built on is kind of like letting go of your own outcomes of whatever it is in your life. Like she said earlier, she said putting your heart into something. I feel like ultimately, like if you put your heart into something, the Most High sees that your heart is flesh. It's not, you don't have a stony heart. Ultimately, along that line in your life, He's gonna call you out of whatever it is that you're in to come walk with Him, because He's not gonna allow you to put your heart into something that's not intertwined with him. You see what I'm saying? Like a job per se, because I myself have put my heart into a job and kind of let go of the outcome of what my life would be like staying in this job. But because I let that go and just kind of like did things free willingly with love and with care and all those kinds of things, is why I truly feel that the Most High basically said, like, my time is now to come to him and put my all into him. Even though the works were for him while I was there, if that makes sense. It's just I didn't know in terms of laboring and just kind of like being a light, being used as a light for people. And then he called me out of there to be a light in a different manner. So yeah, our lives based on decisions that we make, and faith is definitely an ultimate priority in this world.
And so are there any other, well, it's been a lot of comments. Is it everybody good? Or anybody, Kyle? Okay. All right. Shay, Sar, Ako, Gwen, y'all told? If so, hallelujah. Great conversation, and I pray everybody got something out of it that we can take and build on. So what we're gonna do right now, we're gonna transition to sing a couple of songs of praise and worship, and then we'll close out. Sorry, Johanna has some announcements in regards to Passat, and then we'll go from there. Let us stand and praise to the Creator. Who's that? Who's the dick? Sheesh. All right. So make sure I give you the song book today. But if you got a song, and then I'm sure anybody else who got a song on their lab, we'll go from there. Yes, very good. Who? You want what? I don't know what song it is.
It's gonna come back to me. I got a song.
Okay. This is tenor section.
Yeah.
Oh.
Not the tenor.
Hallelujah, hallelujah. Let me see that. Yeah, I gotta do it there. I gotta do.
Hey, song over here.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They got it. They're good.
They got it. They got
Good.
That good?
That good.
She has a song that
You
she
gotta,
wants to
you gotta
sing.
do it.
Oh, okay.
Hey. Now they're good. Go ahead, do the thing. Do the thing.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. We here. You got to record you.
Hallelujah.
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 Hey, praise Most High. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hallelujah, for the Lord Almighty reigns. Hallelujah, holy, holy, you are Yahweh Almighty. Worthy is you, the worthy is Yah. Amen. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. For the Lord Almighty reigns. Hallelujah. You are Yahweh, our Elohim.
Hey, 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 hey.
Worthy is you, Yah. Worthy is you, Yah. Amen. So yeah.
And that was off the cuff.
Baruch. I just learned the song today. So bear with me.
Take it.
Baruch. I can't get it.
Baruch haba, but give me.
I can't get it. I just learned it today.
Ooh, okay, I see it's coming though. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
We honor you,
Almighty,
and we worship your name. We worship you.
we worship you.
Almighty God.
Almighty,
And magnify your praise.
magnify your praise.
We give you praise.
We give you praise.
Almighty God.
Almighty,
Without you, or without you, there's no life. And we are what? We are grateful. We are grateful. We are grateful. We are grateful. We honor you.
we honor you.
Almighty God.
Almighty,
And we worship your name. We worship you.
we worship you.
Almighty God.
Almighty,
Magnify your praise.
magnify your praise.
We give you praise.
We give you praise.
Almighty God.
Almighty,
You are worship for without you. There's no life. And we are what? We are
grateful.
We are grateful. We are
grateful.
We are grateful. For your love. For your truth.
For your truth.
Yeah, your word. Makes us new. Day to day. Gives us light. Shows us how to be your light. And we are what? We are grateful. We are grateful. We are grateful. We are grateful for your love, for your truth, yeah, your word makes us new. Day to day, gives us life, shows us how to be your light, and we are what? We are grateful. We are grateful. We are grateful. We are grateful. One more time, we are grateful. We are grateful. We are grateful. We are grateful. All right. I'll make sure to send it all to y'all so we could y'all gonna stop. Okay, What a wonderful day y'all do for me.
What a wonderful day y'all do for me.
What a wonderful day y'all do for you.
What a wonderful day y'all do for you.
What a wonderful day y'all do for me.
What a wonderful day y'all do for me.
What a wonderful day y'all do for you.
What a wonderful day y'all do for
He
you.
gives me love.
He gives me love.
He gives me joy.
He gives me joy.
He gives me peace.
He gives me peace.
He gives me
everything.
So give thanks to praise to the Most High. Give thanks to praise. Give thanks to praise to the Most High. Give thanks to praise to the Most High. What a wonderful day y'all do for me. What a wonderful day y'all do for you. What a wonderful day y'all do for you. What a wonderful day y'all do for you. What a wonderful day y'all do for me. What a wonderful day y'all do for me. What a wonderful day y'all do for you. What a wonderful day y'all do for you. He gives me love. He gives me love. He gives me joy. He gives me joy. He gives me peace. He gives me peace. He gives us everything. So give thanks to praise to the Most High. 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 One more time. What a wonderful day y'all do for me.
What a wonderful day y'all do for me.
What a wonderful day y'all do for you.
What a wonderful day y'all do for you.
What a wonderful day y'all do for me.
What a wonderful day y'all do for me.
What a wonderful day y'all do for you.
What a wonderful day y'all do for
He
me.
gives me love.
He gives me love.
He gives me joy.
He gives me joy.
He gives me peace.
He gives me peace.
He gives us
everything.
So give thanks to praise. Give thanks to praise. Give thanks to praise. To the Most High. Give thanks to praise. To the Most High. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Your hands hurt, don't you? Anybody else got the other song?
You are the source of my life.
Oh yeah, you are the source of my life. Oh yeah,
Oh yeah,
you are
the source of my life.
and there's none.
There's none like you.
Come on. Oh yeah, you
are the source of my life.
Oh yeah, come on.
Oh yeah,
You are
the source of my life.
Oh yeah, you are
the source of my life.
and there's none like
you.
One more time. Oh yeah, come on.
Oh yeah,
You are
the source of my life.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah,
you are
the source of my life.
Come on. Oh yeah,
Oh yeah,
yes you are
the source of my life.
and
There's none like you.
You are El.
You are El.
You are King.
You are King.
You are author and creator
You are author and
of everything. Great I am.
The great I am.
You're worthy.
You're worthy.
Yeah.
Always.
You make the valley by my side. And you deliver from the fire. Come on. Come on. Yeah. You are
the source of my life.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
You are
the source of my life.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
You are
the source of my life.
and there's none.
There's none like you.
You are El.
You are El.
You are King.
You are King.
You are author and creator of everything.
Creator of everything.
Great I am.
The great I am.
Worthy of all esteem.
Worthy of all esteem.
You in the valley by my side.
You in the valley by my
And you deliver from where?
You deliver from
The fire. Yeah. You are
the source of my life.
Yes you are. Yes you are.
Oh yeah.
You are
the source of my life.
Oh yeah. You are
Oh yeah.
You are
the source of my life.
And there's none like
you.
One more time. Oh yeah. Come on.
Oh yeah.
You are
the source of my life.
Oh yeah. Oh Hallelujah.
Oh yeah.
You are
the source of my life.
and there's none.
And there's none like you.
And there's none.
And there's none like you.
One more time, and there's none.
And there's none like you.
Hallelujah. Yeah, me
This
too.
section over here, right?
You got a little bass on here. I see y'all over here.
All I said is I wish I had the songs. That's it.
The playlist called.
I don't know if I could do that one.
You're good?
Hallelujah in the night. Hallelujah in the midst of day. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah in the morning. Hallelujah in the night. Hallelujah in the midst of day. Hallelujah in the morning. Come on. Hallelujah
in the morning.
Hallelujah in the night. In the midst of day.
In the midst of day.
One more time. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
Hallelujah in the morning.
Hey. Hallelujah in the night. Hallelujah in the midst of day. You are worthy.
You are worthy of all the praise.
For all of your marvelous, for all of your marvelous ways. There's no more to say.
There's no more to say.
Father, we thank you.
Father, we thank you.
Father, we thank you.
Father, we thank you.
You are worthy.
You are worthy of all the praise.
For all of your marvelous,
For all of your marvelous ways.
there's no more to say.
There's no more to say.
But Father, we thank you.
Father, we thank you.
Father, we thank you.
Father, we thank you.
So, hallelujah, hallelujah.
Hallelujah
In the morning, hallelujah. In the night, hallelujah. In the midst of day, hallelujah, hallelujah.
Hallelujah in the morning.
Hallelujah. In the night, hallelujah. In the midst of day. So praise him, so praise him, praise him, praise him, praise him, praise him, praise him. Say hallelujah,
Hallelujah.
praise him, praise him, praise him, praise him, praise him, praise him. Say hallelujah,
Hallelujah.
hallelujah. In the morning, hallelujah. In the night, hallelujah. In the midst of day. Last time, hallelujah, hallelujah. In the morning, hallelujah. In the night, hallelujah. In the midst of day. Hallelujah.
Oh, yeah, take it. It's like
If my people
Who are called by my name would humble themselves and pray and turn from their wicked way. If my people, oh yeah, who are called by my name will humble themselves, and pray and turn from their wicked ways, turn from their wicked ways. Then I would hear from heaven. I will hear from heaven. I hear from heaven. I hear and I heal their land. One more time, if my people, come on, 1, 2, 3. If my people, oh yeah, who are called by my name, will humble themselves and pray, and turn from their wicked ways, then I would hear, from heaven. I will hear from heaven. I hear from heaven. I hear and I heal their land. Hey, hallelujah. But we hear the tenor section. This is,
When the spirit of your wife comes, I see you. Yeah. Nice. When the spirit of your word comes upon my heart,
I will dance like David danced. When the spirit of your word comes upon my heart, I will dance like David danced. I will dance, I will dance, I will dance, I will dance like David danced. I will dance, I will dance, I will dance like David danced. When the spirit of your word comes upon my heart, I will dance like David danced. When the spirit of your word comes upon my heart, I will dance like David danced. I will what? I will dance, I will dance, I will dance like David danced. I will dance, I will dance, I will dance like David danced. One more time. When the spirit of your word comes upon my heart, I will dance like David danced. When the spirit of your word comes upon my heart, I will dance like David danced. I will dance, I will dance, I will dance like David danced. I will dance, I will dance, I will dance like David danced. Hallelujah.
He said, let the drums keep going.
It's this service, power, my arms gonna show off.
Yeah. See, I haven't read them.
Hey, does anybody else have any other songs? If not, it's time.
Do some songs.
I'm gonna make sure I get
You have one more round to go. It's like,
No, it's co-ed right here. I don't need nothing from the door.
Y'all wanna finish it, you guys?
My hands hurt.
Uh-oh.
No. Okay, hallelujah. Johannan, we can be seated if you can. No, wow, it's cold. It's cold.
We did a screen door.
She's on Amazon Prime. Anyway, Johannan.
Yeah, Hebrew. Shalom,
Shalom.
Johannan, so real quick. Y'all can be seated.
Uh-oh.
We're gonna name that song. Do the
I don't know what the remote is.
Look at that czar up there. Shiny.
Is that the remote right there? Oh, never mind. Go right together.
That's my twin.
Yeah, later.
Something sweet?
Go ahead, Akeem, Tosif.
King. Shabbat shalom, Mr. Kai. We're gonna do that. We're gonna do that big David dance. Big David dance. Miss for Pesach. As y'all know, Pesach is gonna be in North Carolina this year again, like last year at Camp Kirkwood. Unfortunately, we tried to get it up to VA, but unfortunately, all the venues kind of booked up on that weekend due to Easter, because it is Easter weekend, the same weekend of Pesach this year. So We have some cabins reserved down at Camp Kirkwood. We got 8 cabins, but they have 14 beds in it. But y'all know who